Welcome to the BJJ Executive Podcast, episode 13. I'm your host, Dave Kroll. Getting right into it this week, a couple of housekeeping items. I have been dutifully reminded multiple occasions that I need to add some stripes to my social media white belt. And so some housekeeping items there. How can you support the podcast? And it's super simple. You can go on whatever platform you've got, whether it's Spotify, Apple, Amazon, YouTube, anything that you use as a medium to listen to these podcasts, and do whatever it is that they've got on their platform to support it. That's a like, that's a thumbs up, that's a star review, that's writing a review, whatever that is. And then on social media, follow us on Instagram, BJJ Executive. Share it with your friends, interact with the content. And believe it or not, there are a lot of messages that come my way. And whether it's color commentary on the podcast itself, or questions on content that they want to have added in, or questions for some of the people that come on, those are always welcomed. It's a blast to go back and forth and just to hear that people like it. And the goal here, of course, is to keep people on the mats, to make this a supplement to training, to make this a supplement to your longevity in training. And I think the best way to do that is to get the word out. So simple as that. You want to support the podcast, just go talk about it. This week's been an interesting week, and kind of getting into this week's guest a little bit. And I trained last night. I trained hard last night. I was back on the mats over at Highland Village, and I was around people that are actually rooting for you in life, people that are looking out for your best interest, people that want to see you do well. And that brings me into this week's guest. This adventure, this journey, it's all about relationships. And one of the most enjoyable things that I've had as a part of this podcast and in general in jiu-jitsu is building relationships and meeting new people, and people that are of like mind, people that are hustlers, people that are on the top of their game in jiu-jitsu, people that are on the top of their game in business and are just winning. And I met this guy as a friend of a friend, and we got into a couple different conversations about some of the things that he's doing, which we'll get into today. But we've since spent a ton of time together over the last couple of weeks. And I guess without further ado, I'm just going to drive right in to my buddy, husband, father, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu brown belt, and academy owner out of Roanoke Jiu-Jitsu Academy, Zach Paul. Zach, what is up?
How you doing?
It's been fun to kind of get to know you, and you've been a gracious host of a part of my journey as an instructor as well, which is much appreciated. So glad to have you here.
Yeah, man, it's been, like I said, it's been great having you at the academy. Obviously, I'm in the process of looking for hiring an assistant coach, and
I'm in the interview process.
Yeah, and you being interested in helping me coach if I need to travel has been great. And plus, it's great to have just another adult on the mat. Our kids class is definitely growing, and yeah, it's been wonderful to have you.
It gives me a chance to play adult. Like very few moments in life these days can I actually be a grown up.
Yeah, and I know your kids are kind of all grown. My kids are still of the age where we're still teaching. They're young, right? They're 9 and 10. Your kid's been grown. I think you're rediscovering what it's like to talk to 5-year-olds, right? I know, man. We were talking a little bit about this, and real nerves, like straight up nervous energy when being in front of a line of children. It's like, what the hell, man? How's this? Yeah, you're a CFO.
I know.
You've talked to much more, at stake situations,
dude, seriously,
than telling kids to go, do shrimps across.
Dude, I have, if I was in a board meeting, of course, like there's, I don't know, nerves, I guess, but like it just, repetition, it kind of cures that, right? Like action cures fear. We've talked about that before. And all of a sudden we're getting ready to, bow the kids in. And I'm like, oh my God, what am I going to tell these kids? How do I speak? How do I speak 9-year-old?
So don't use terms like perpendicular. All right. So yeah, Dave in one of his, we were discussing, what was it? Was it body clinch?
It was a body clinch.
Yeah, it was body clinching. Like, make sure your body's perpendicular. And I saw them. This is really funny. I saw the kids all like start whispering to each other, like, what's perpendicular? And I know some of them were like, is that like Uchimata? Is it a Japanese or Brazilian term?
Yes.
Right.
Exactly.
And I'm like, and I go to Dave afterwards, I'm like, hey man, they haven't been through geometry yet. They don't know what perpendicular means.
triangulate your body with their body.
They're not going to get. You're going to have to say, point your belly button into them.
Dude, it's a trip. I seriously, I had a blast, man. I wasn't prepared for one, how worn out you get especially with kids, because your head's on a swivel. You know,
there's emotional investment. Yeah,
emotional investment, but also just like mentally, you do have to. Maybe I'm sure this is something that you get better at, and obviously your kids are younger too, so maybe you're a little bit more sensitized to it. But like, thinking through everything you say with a different type of a filter than you and I would just have a conversation on. Like the first time we met, like, we went and had lunch, right?
Yeah.
Easy. We had a conversation. We're two very similar people, have similar backgrounds. And
we started at the same school.
Interests. Started at the same school down in Florida.
God, what are the odds?
Slim, actually. And you are the first person that I've met that we share that background. And but anyway, like my point is, like, it was effortless, right? It was like, when you meet somebody you're on kind of the same frequency on, you just sort of flow. When you're having to like put things through a different filter, it's like, dude, it takes a couple more calories, So I was coming home smoked 4 hours, 2 kids classes, 2 adult classes. Like, damn, dude,
I do that. I do that every day after a job.
That's crazy.
I do my job at the school and then I switch hats.
That's crazy. I've talked about that before, man. Like, I think that is like kind of a common misconception. And earlier on in the podcast, we had Formiga and then we had Rodrigo come on, and I remember talking to them both, like, what is it that we don't see? Because I sometimes would see like Rodrigo come in. I do the very early morning class at like 6 o'clock in the morning, and sometimes I'll go at night too. Dude, Rodrigo was there at 6:30 in the morning. He taught privates in between, trained at noon, did pro training after that, did some workouts, did some privates, and then taught again. I mean, dude, that's it's easy to come in for your 1 hour a day and be like, ooh, man, what a glamorous life. I love this, but people don't see what it takes behind the scenes.
You don't see cleaning the toilets every day.
Your gym is immaculate, man.
I clean the toilets every day.
I've got to say, dude, your gym really is. It sparkles. It looks like something that somebody with your background would you don't have soldiers though. That's the problem.
Yes, I am the soldier.
You are the soldier.
But I've also been an enlisted soldier, so I know what it's like to clean bathrooms.
You're the soldier, you're the NCO, and you're the OIC. You're the commanding officer and everything in between. So
we go through a lot of bleach at the school. The boys' bathroom is not a fun experience every day I go in there.
I can appreciate that. I've trained at some old school gyms, man, where you walk in and like you immediately smell the ringworm. You know what I mean? Like festering, and you're like, dude, there's like geese from the morning hanging up all over the place that are going to be reused.
Nope.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah. You set a really good example, man. And you hold the line too. I heard you like, get off the mats when
So I put yellow and black construction caution tape around the mat. I have signs printed out.
You literally made it idiot proof.
Yeah, and it still happens. Like, kids still walk in the bathroom barefoot, and I had like, okay, see the bleach wipes right there. Go bleach wipe your foot.
Yeah.
And kids will still. I had a kid run across the mat with shoes the other day, and that's not a new kid. It's a relatively kid's kid.
That's definitely a faux pas. Right
and I'm like, and his parents flip out, and I appreciate that. His parents were very, and I had to go and bleach wipe all the footprints off, but. Yeah, man, I've had MRSA, I've had ringworm, and I've had staph. I've had all three, and I just don't want them again.
Yeah, right? It's hard to avoid no matter what.
No, of course.
You know what I mean? So, like, there are some basic precautions that you can take, and you definitely are on the far side of those precautions. So, as a practitioner, I certainly appreciate it.
You don't
I've been with you. I've been all through those phases, So, let's talk about Tap Cancer Out a little bit before we get too far into it. I mean, you guys are, one of the things that I noticed in your gym is you've got a huge whiteboard, 3x5 whiteboard, and it's full of names and it's full of dollar signs. And so you guys are out for a cause, it appears. And what's the story behind this?
Yeah, so, this is the third year I've done Tap Cancer Out. I did it twice with Professor Paul Gilman at Argyle. And the first year we did Argyle, we won the #1 school raising money for Dallas. And it was a really cool experience. Second year we did it, and this is my first year doing it with my own academy. And, we set a couple of goals. With one, just max participation, right? Mm-hmm. It's our first tournament as a school. Tap Cancer Out is a little bit easier. It's not exactly IBJF Worlds, right? So it's a little bit easier of a skill gap for the kids that are first time doing it. And it because I hate social media and it hates me, Tap Cancer Out lends itself to social media very well because you have to share the page for your donation, right? So it's twofold. One, we raise money for a great cause. The kids get to go to, a really tame tournament. But now I've got all these moms of these kids and families of these kids that are sharing this link. Hey, raise money. Oh, by the way, my kid does jiu-jitsu.
Oh, yeah. I got you.
And so it helps promote us on social media. in that fundraising effort. So it doesn't just make awareness for Tap Cancer Out, it makes awareness for the gym.
That's cool, man.
And the leaderboard is how much money we've raised. Right now, we are easily number one for the Dallas Open.
No kidding.
Yeah. I mean, I think we're doubling the school behind us, right? They're not going to catch us. They're not. I mean, challenge them, but they're not going to catch us.
How do people contribute? I mean, like, what is there a link or something?
Everyone gets a link. All the kids get a link, and that link is shared now again on social media by their parents, their families. The moms are putting it on their social media, and inadvertently they're saying, "My kid's doing jiu-jitsu at this school."
Yeah,
right.
100%. Yeah.
So it's promotion all the way around. It's that synergistic ability for social media to promote a cause and promote a location. Everyone benefits, right? The kids benefit. They're going to a tournament. Tap Cancer Out benefits. They're getting money raised for them, and I benefit by just awareness about my school being in Roanoke.
Yeah.
Right. And it's been great. It's been great. We raised a ton of money. We're doing fight camp every Friday. So we're in fight camp tonight.
Specifically about preparing for Tap Cancer Out.
Yeah, specifically, we're doing it in gi. It's kids class.
Cool.
It's
awesome,
all
man.
point scoring. Getting awareness about point scoring, doing takedowns, avoiding guard pulls, and
Inside joke.
Yeah, dominant position. Right. Just teaching kids that haven't been in a tournament what a tournament's going to be like. Kind of increasing that pace. It's an 1.5 hour long class, so it burns them out just a little bit more than the hour 45 minutes class. So they really have to kind of commit to it.
Yeah.
And the kids that are coming are the ones that are gonna, I think, commit to it. And they've learned stuff at fight camp and they've brought it in the normal class. And the other kid's like, "Where'd you learn that?" And they're like, "Oh, I learned it at fight camp."
Yeah, where were you?
Yeah, where were you? You should have came. And they're like, "Oh God, I don't know. That's a long class." And they're like, "Well, that's where I learned the takedown,
Dude,
man."
It's funny, man. Like the Me Too clause in jiu-jitsu is real because, like, and it's same in the adults. It's like, where'd you get that? Like, oh, I was over here, or this guy over here showed it to me, or like, oh man,
you didn't show up for extra training.
I know, man. We did it after you rushed out the door. You know, yeah. So and so did a whole little group lesson on this. It's great. It's crazy. So when is the tournament?
May 27th, I think.
20. Okay, cool. So this episode will have, it'll have been out by then too. So, all right, man, that's awesome. How do people find out about it if somebody wants to contribute, since this will still be going live when the episode comes out?
Yeah, so you can contribute to our webpage. You can go to our website. You can go to our Facebook page, our Instagram. There's a link there for it.
Okay.
And if you want to donate, don't donate to the school. Donate to one of our members. Because you donate to the school, like because the kids get credit, right?
I gotcha.
And they get like prizes based on how much they contribute. If they raise $250, their ticket for the tournament's free.
Okay, cool.
So I'm trying to make sure all the kids raise at least $250.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah.
So if you see one of my kids, so if you see one of my kids that don't have $250, donate to that kid. Help them get the free ticket, right?
That's cool. That's cool. What's the age limit on this?
I mean, I'm competing. I'm 41.
What's the bottom age? Is what I was going to.
I don't know. I'm sure they have 5-year-olds.
Do they? Okay, cool. Yeah. So this is straight up some of the little kids as well.
I have little kids. I've got a 6-year-old competing.
All right, cool, man. Yeah. I'm gonna go check this out. I'm starting to feel a little guilty because I saw the leaderboard and I'm realizing that I'm a non-contributor. So.
Yeah, I have the picture from last year where I dislocated the dude's shoulder.
Oh my gosh.
So that's like, everyone's like, "Oh, how'd you do this?" And I'm like, "Here's the picture of the dude not tapping."
Well, that's what you teach the kids on day one. Here's how you tap, man. You can do it verbally, you can do it physically, you can do it in multiple different ways, So
he actually had a cardiac event. I feel bad for him. Like he had a cardiac event last year. Yeah.
Oh, poor guy. Well, I mean, maybe that was, who knows? Hopefully they weren't linked. Let's get into it a little bit, man. You've got a super interesting background, and this is starting. I mean, not to even prelude it a little bit, but once again, I mean, we've got somebody that's got some links to the Far East, and I'm gonna have to start I don't know if there's sample bias in my life or what. I'm gonna have to start introducing myself more to Eastern European competitors or something to get some European influence. We've got plenty of Brazil, and now we've got once again, some links into parts of Asia. But, I mean, just quick highlight version. I mean, where'd you grow up, man? And how'd you end up where you're at right now?
So I was born in Singapore, and I moved to Australia for a couple of years. That's where I learned to speak English.
Okay. I mean, you don't have an Australian accent and you don't have...
That's because I'm using my American accent.
Okay.
Now, right?
Okay, cool.
When I first came here, I sounded very Australian, and I actually had to start listening to American cartoons to learn how to speak like American, because I had a broken English and Australian accent. So it was not good, right, for a kid growing up. Mm-hmm. And I learned to eventually speak like this.
Yeah.
So this is my American accent voice.
Yeah.
My wife will sometimes still catch me using Australian slang.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah, what is it? You guys say, rather, right? American, I say rather.
Okay.
Right? Like I still say stuff like that. I'll still say, yeah, just the stuff I use. I can't think of them now, but like there are words that are very Australian-esque, and my wife like laughs at me. She's like, that's an Australianism, isn't it? I'm like,
that's cool. That's cool. I think like the typical Australian, the good day mate and all that other good stuff, that would be the easy ones to kind of
there's
give you a
little
clue
slangs in there. But then I moved to the States, grew up in Pittsburgh.
Okay.
Did a year at UCLA, but I eventually graduated at Duquesne University in Pittsburgh. Spent some time just moving around the Army. Did 10 years of the Army. I was in law school at the time, and 9/11 happened. So I finished out my first year of law school and decided to enlist in the Army. Did 10 years there, and then got out of my life, and been in a professional career ever since. Moved all around the country before finding my way to Texas.
Crazy. So I guess going back, how long were you in Singapore?
Just like 4 years, man. Not long, like 4 years. Yeah, like 4 years in Singapore. And Singapore back then is not what it is now, right? It's very developed now. It's
seriously, like ultra developed.
Financial
hub, lots of expats.
Yeah, and
tiny island.
Tiny island. And there's a lot of socialism in that country that you don't see.
Really?
So like the government owns like 85% of all the land.
I didn't know that.
You don't have private.
Not much land to own, but
but you don't have private property.
Yeah,
like it's really hard to get private property. You have to lease it from the government for a certain amount of time. It's this big cultural thing, right? Housing is heavily subsidized. But they make it work, I guess. But when we left, it was much on the darker side of socialism. And,
oh, really?
Yeah, it was one of the reasons we left. It was very difficult to kind of live there. Went to Australia, and then eventually found our way to the U.S.
I've been to Singapore a couple times, and one of the things that struck me, and I don't know if this might not be true, but the road coming out of the airport, apparently, like the highway coming out of the airport, apparently, like
it's a landing strip.
It's a landing strip.
It's a landing strip.
I had and so I don't know if that's like a source of pride for Singaporeans or whatnot, but it's an
emergency landing strip.
In terms of like being able to protect themselves and whatnot, like all of the median and whatnot is removable.
Singapore has conscription.
Yeah.
Right. So everyone's
mandatory service,
mandatory male service, and it's not as. The attitude toward it is not like it is in South Korea. Like South Korea has like mandatory conscription, but like everyone hates it there, right?
Yeah.
And Singapore, and I don't want to like oversell this, but like when you go, 10% of the population that goes in gets selected for officer school, right? And you go, so that's how they pick their officers. Like you kind of go in and get split.
Okay.
Some go to officer school.
So some create a hierarchy then, basically.
Yeah, it's a meritocracy. So meritocracy is some people in the U.S. say that's not good. The Singaporeans love the term meritocracy. They think it's great.
Okay.
And
I would think that most people would want to be a part of a meritocracy. I don't see the downside to that.
Depends on how meritorious you are, right?
The downside
like
is
you and me,
bottom 90%.
Yeah, you and me, yeah, we love meritocracy, right? Because we work hard for what we have. But so that's something you put in your resume. I went to officer school. Like it's a huge ticket to success.
Okay, in Singapore,
right?
Automatically you're considered top 10%.
Top 10% of the population. Yeah. So it's a huge ticket to success. So everyone's trying to make officer school. There are tutoring ways to get to the officer school, right?
Okay.
But their biggest fear is a water line from Malaysia, to get their water from Malaysia. So all of Singapore's tanks are amphibious, right? So they can, kind of like go and seize water assets in Malaysia if there's an issue. So that's always, they train for parades, right? And protecting Singapore. Again, Singapore doesn't have any enemies.
Yeah.
Right? No one wants to mess with their banking juggernaut. It's like Switzerland. You just don't mess with Switzerland. All the money's there. You don't mess with Singapore. It's just the money's there.
Yeah.
And it's not because their military is really that great. It's because just the money's there. You don't want to mess up the banking system.
Yeah, right. Yeah, it's crazy, man. It is it is a huge hub. For aviation, it's big as well. Like they've done a ton of investment into like tax treaties throughout the world, and so it just makes it a good place to do business legally and then just economically as well.
And they got a deep water harbor too, so nuclear submarines and aircraft carriers can.
Oh, really?
There. Yeah, they got a deep water harbor.
Wow, crazy, man. But nonetheless, you guys left. Did you grow up in Australia? I mean, was that kind of like
spent about 4 or 5 years there. Like I said, learned English there.
Okay.
Functionally.
And you spoke Mandarin in Singapore?
Yeah, spoke Mandarin, Cantonese, Hokkien, and Malay.
Okay.
But I can't read Malay. I can only I can speak it. Right?
Got it.
I can't read it. And honestly, my Mandarin's just trash right now because I don't. I only use it when my mom yells at me, right? Why you
still a pretty cool skill to have, man. I mean,
I guess I use it. So you know what I use it for? I use it with my son when I want to talk to him without my wife knowing.
You guys got your secret code.
Yeah, I kind of joke with my son about it. I'll say a couple words to him and he gets it, right? But
yeah,
it's a fun little thing now.
That's cool, man. That's awesome. And so I guess, I mean, you moved to Pittsburgh, you said, and eventually went to UCLA and then.
Yeah, for 1 year.
For 1 year.
California was, big shocker. California was not for me.
Yeah, exactly. Well, you're not one to be known for like your quiet opinion. So I'm sure that like, I'm sure you had one there, and I imagine it was probably contentious. You tend to run into that stuff, it seems.
Man, I'm embarrassed.
Spencer's got some really funny stories about you that he's told me, by the way.
God, I don't want to say this. I don't want to say this on the podcast, but like so 2 things about California that I will tell, obviously now a lot of people. I was surfer trash.
Really?
Dude,
I can't even imagine.
I know, and I tell that everyone. Everyone looks at me and they're like, dude, when I say surfer trash.
I mean, you're a laid back guy. I mean, like that part of it doesn't.
I had hair to my
surprise me.
shoulders. I had beads and woven in my hair. I said bra all the time.
That is hard to imagine.
I know. I would look at myself.
This is pre-army.
This is oh my God, yes, pre-army. I had hair down. I had beads in my hair. I almost joined a cult. Right? Like I almost joined a cult in LA. I was surfer.
These things don't seem to like coincide. Like I would think of cult as like, far religious, and I would think of, I don't know, I guess maybe surfing could kind of be that way. And it does seem sort of cultish, just like jiu-jitsu is sort of cultish.
Yeah, my cousin pulled me. I was almost ready to go out to the compound. Like I was like ready to join a cult, and my cousin's like, that's a cult, right? I'm like, because I was living with my cousin at the time out there, and I'm like, it's not a cult. They just put a lot of positive energy out into the world, and they receive a lot of positive energy back. And he's like, dude, just say that again.
Yeah,
I'm
exactly.
I'm like, I guess I can kind of see how it's kind of cultish. Like,
yeah. Can you get out of it if you want?
I didn't officially join, right? Like they did this thing on Santa Monica Boulevard where they had like a free meal every Saturday, and they had like all the pretty girls serving the meal, and I was out there, and they were so nice to me. And it was free food, and I'm an 18-year-old college student, and it's pretty girls and free food. Like it's the easy catch, right? Yeah. And they're like, you should really come out to our Sunday dinners out at the facility. And I'm like, oh, what's the facility? And it's like, oh, it's our kind of ranch out, in the country and everything like that. It's in the desert. It's in the desert. Yeah. And I was ready to go. And my cousin's like, you are not going out to the compound. I'm like, it's called the facility, Jason.
Or the ranch. These all sound like Netflix miniseries, by the way.
It's a ranch. It sounds
Zach
lovely.
Paul.
He's like, and I get to meet one of their, like leaders in the church and everything like that. It's a really good organization. He's like, you're not going out to the facility. He's like, there's no way I want to explain to my mom and my aunt, like my mom, that I let you join a cult. You are not going. Dude. And he eventually talked me out of it and pointed out that it in fact was a cult. And I did not join. But I was close, man.
Yeah.
I was close.
Were you a wrestler in high school or anything like that? I mean, the only reason I asked is because I know at some point you entered into this world of martial arts. You're a well-rounded martial artist, and we could get into it. I mean, like jiu-jitsu is obviously kind of the theme here, but you've got a lot of other, kind of accolades under your belt.
Yeah.
How did you get into? I mean, somehow you found your way into this world. What was the on-ramp for you?
Yeah, so I grew up doing, kung fu, Chinese, right? Everyone does kung fu when you're Chinese. Just kind of do it.
Is that right? Everybody does kung fu?
I don't know. I'm being incredibly generalist here, right?
That is a little bit of a hasty generalization.
It is, but you know what? It's like all the Chinese people I knew did kung fu.
Yeah.
Because all the Chinese people I knew went to the same kind of kung fu. So yeah, I grew up doing Wing Chun. And I competed in Muay Thai for like 13 years. It's actually my primary discipline. So I'm a kickboxer first.
Yeah, I can tell.
Yeah. It's definitely where I draw all of my, if I got in trouble, I would panic and go to Muay Thai before I went to jiu-jitsu.
Yeah.
Right. I'm okay at jiu-jitsu. I'm very confident to say I'm good at Muay Thai. Mm-hmm. Did that for, a lot of years. I have a black belt in karate. It's not worth anything. And then I got into the Army, got involved with the Modern Army Combatives program, and was really good. It was really good. I really liked it. So competed on the Bragg team at Fort Bragg. Went all the way through in level 4. The Army has 4 levels. So went all the way through level 4, which is very similar to MMA. There's a lot of striking there. Mm-hmm. You fight in body armor. You learn how to transition weapons and stuff like that.
It makes sense. You are soldiers. I mean,
yeah. And it's always, it's level 4. It's how to subdue, clear, get to a weapon, or fight with a weapon, retain a weapon, right? And you're fighting in body armor, which is you have a whole other weapon here in this chest plate that you can ram into someone's face, right? Or ram them into your chest plate. So you have a plate here that you kind of use as a weapon. And so, I have a lot. My jiu-jitsu stemmed from the impact and self-defense side, before the sporting side. And then I got out and got into jiu-jitsu after I got out of the Army. And I was a white belt for like 5 years. Probably an inappropriate amount of time because I moved every 2 years.
Yeah.
And, you don't promote yourself.
Seriously, dude. Yeah, you can't promote yourself. I mean, people kind of, I know I was in the same boat. Like, I'm like, what do you want me to do? Like, you're not a white belt. Like, okay, I mean, feel free to fix that at some point.
Yeah, and I never pursued belts. Like, I was never a belt chaser.
Yeah.
What I was a tournament chaser, and I used to love. And I look back on it, and I'm not proud of it. We laugh about it now, but like, I probably wrecked a lot of tournament experiences for a lot of people at white belt because I just enjoyed tournaments and I like going. Probably because I was winning all the time, but I was an inappropriate white belt, right?
Yeah.
It's like it wouldn't be fair. And I got to Paul, Professor Paul Gielman at Argyle, and he was just like you're a no stripe white belt. I'm like, well, I take my stripes off whenever I go to a new school. I feel it's disrespectful to come in stripes, so I just come in fresh.
Presumptuous.
I feel it's disrespectful. I don't expect that people to do it in my gym. Like, you come in stripes, great. I just wasn't going to do it. I took off my stripes whenever I went somewhere.
Yeah.
And Paul's like, okay, well, you're not really a white belt. He's like, very clearly, you're not a white belt.
Yeah.
And so, he kind of caught me up with, the gaps in my game. I had some very serious gaps in my game that he kind of caught me up with, as well as, I guess the coloring of the belt. And so now I'm brown belt, right? I guess.
So, well, you're definitely a brown belt. There's no, I guess. I think it's well established. But your journey into the Army, I mean, like the Army Combatives program, I don't know that much about it, but you and I had some discussions a few weeks ago, and from what I understand, I mean, there's a lot of similarities between the Army Combatives program and that of like the Marine Corps Martial Arts program.
Same program.
Yeah, which was something that came in like. Actually, after I'd left active duty, I was on active duty in the Marine Corps for 5 years. And then when I was in the reserves, they had started rolling this out. And recruits would go through this in recruit training and then come out at a certain level. And so there was this effort to kind of catch people up. And I was a part of the catch-up crew, So I got, maybe a cup of coffee in Marine Corps martial arts. But I've seen it all evolve since then. And it's such a cool part of the armed forces now that I don't know if I doubt the Air Force is doing anything, but like I don't know if the
Air Force doesn't do anything. I'll say that for the record. The Air Force doesn't do anything. I'll say that.
So we'll just stick with the Army and the Marine Corps because you and I can speak factually about that. What was it that got you into the Army, though? I mean, backing up a little bit. I mean, you were a commissioned officer.
9/11, man. Like, I was on a different trajectory. I was in law school. I was planning on being a lawyer, right? I had an internship with Jones Day. Like,
is that a big law firm?
Yeah, it's a real big law firm. And, I was going to kind of go do that thing, right? And 9/11 happened. And, I had already bought my first. So I was working at FedEx, actually, while I was going through law school. And so I had a really good job, and I was going to law school on the side. And I had bought my first house. I had a live-in girlfriend, which in hindsight she was probably a gold digger, right? She kind of saw where I was going in life, right? And she,
saw the law school accolades.
Yeah, she kind of saw where I was going. She saw I had bought my first house, and she knew what and when I enlisted, when I left my job at FedEx and dropped out of law school, she dropped me quick. Like, she was no longer interested.
Well, then there you go. You proved it. I mean,
she was she was not interested in being a soldier, especially enlisted soldier, because I enlisted first.
You enlisted first. Okay.
I did. I enlisted. I went to basic training. Went through as an infantryman.
Okay.
And then I went to OCS, officer school, afterwards.
What was the path to OCS? Did you have a guaranteed slot, or did you go on some program or something?
Yeah, there's a program. It's called a 09 Sierra program, which is a program to, you go through basic, you kind of go to unit, and then you there's a slot open, you go to officer school.
Really?
Right? Yeah.
Okay,
so I
cool.
I always knew when I enlisted I would eventually be an officer. That was always the pipeline.
You already had college done?
I already had college done. I was in law school.
Why didn't you go like ROTC? Why even waste your time as an enlisted
soldier,
dude?
Because I had no plan to be, and so I'd already graduated college.
Yeah.
Right? I had no plan to be, I'd never thought about being in the military. I did not consider myself a patriot.
Oh, you'd already finished college. Yeah. Okay,
yeah.
I got you. So there's no ROTC.
There's no ROTC.
Yeah.
I did not think.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah, I did not think I was going to be a soldier. Like, I joined out of like this swell of patriotism.
Yeah.
Of our country was attacked, and she asked for her sons to defend her, right?
Yeah.
And I didn't want to be in my 40s and have to answer to my kid as he's learning about 9/11 in school. Dad, why didn't you go? Right? I knew when I was
in
like
your prime.
Yeah, I knew that when I was 20. I'm going to look back on this one day. I'm going to be one of the guys that didn't raise their hand, and I just could not. Something about that just did not sit well. I was not a patriot at the time. I never thought about it, right? And it happened, and I was one of the many boys that said, "Okay, let's go."
Yeah,
right? Like, let's just go. We'll go. And we signed up. We went. I thought it was gonna be like Gulf War, 3 years and be done. I go on with my life.
Yep.
Damn, war didn't end. for like
I know,
10
dude.
years.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it ended for you when it ended, but I mean, it ended for everybody else. I mean, recently, right? I mean, like this is 20 years of freaking conflict.
War didn't end for a long time. And, I got out when they started doing the drawdown because I thought, okay, they're trying to get people out.
Yeah.
I am no longer needed if they're trying to get people out. And I was about to make major and I'm like, well, I did make major. I just didn't accept it because then you'd incur more years of commitment. So I was like, no, I'll just get out as a captain. And, I had a great experience, found my way to fifth group, had a great time. And just when it ended, it ended.
Yeah.
And it was a great experience. But it brought me to jiu-jitsu, right? It got me really involved in kind of that ground combatives culture.
Yeah.
And, as I got out, I was like, okay, the logical progression, I'm going to keep doing jiu-jitsu on the outside, right?
Yeah. Would you guys, I mean, I'm assuming it's just a part of the group that you were with that you mentioned. I mean, would you guys train this stuff as part of like this is like tools in the tool belt, right? I mean,
yeah.
I imagine
so
there's probably a direct need for it, being.
Yeah, Colonel Brower was the commander of 5th Special Forces Group when I was at Fort Campbell. And Fort Campbell has its own fight house. And he counseled his initial counseling, initial counseling is what they do to like your first like on-ramp for an officer comes on. Mm-hmm. Your supervisor comes in and he counsels you on what he expects of you. So it's like
That's cool,
it's like your onboarding, right? Like, hey.
A lot of businesses could benefit from that as well.
Yeah, here's the expectations of me.
It's usually just guess what I want.
Yeah, and they write it down. Here's your written expectations that I have for you. Here's what you can expect of me.
Dude, I love it.
So it's called initial counseling. Well, Colonel Brower does his initial counseling at the fight house.
Okay.
So he initially counsels all his captains on the mat.
Dude, legit.
Yeah, and that's like a really cool thing that he does, right? And he's like, wear a mouth guard, right? And it's a cool experience. And so, I was already like, I think level 2 or level 3 when I got there, and they put me through level 3 and 4. And it was a really great experience. I got to go to Fort Bragg and then Fort Benning to train. I compete on the Bragg team. Like, it was a good experience. It was a really good experience. And I loved it. You see it in my jiu-jitsu, right? Like I'm always talking about like drawing my sidearm.
Yeah.
Going to my rifle, being able to clear. Like I'm a little more upright in my jiu-jitsu. Like my knee on belly is not very close. It's a little distance because I'm always thinking of going for a firearm.
Yeah.
I always pass to my right because I keep my target on my left because my draw from my right. Like, so when I fight, I'm always thinking of going to a weapon. I'm always thinking of going to a sidearm, right?
Interesting.
So you'll see that, like, if you pay attention, like, I have a strong preference to keep my right side away from my target.
Yeah. Have you ever like embraced? I mean, it's interesting. I mean, I'm sure we'll get into this a little bit, but like, our experience at Valente Brothers, for example, a very self-defense, a primary.
Solely.
I don't even solely self-defense. Solely self-defense.
They don't compete.
Focus school. They don't compete.
You can't compete in their gi because their gi does not meet IBJJF standards.
It would also be destroyed. Yeah. I mean, like the gi is made out of linen or something.
And it's too short. It's like a judo. It's like a short linen judo gi.
Yeah. Have you ever? One of the things that I like about that though, and I know this is not your style, but when especially at their new school down in Miami where there'll be like hundreds of students, there is something nice about the uniformity. It looks like a picture out of a Kodokan magazine from 1920. I'm not saying that that's what I want or that's what I always want, but like, dude, you want to talk about sticking to your guns, man. Those dudes have like,
school. And I visited that new facility.
And there are people that only want that too,
There are people that want that. I think it's a great product. We talked about what the product of jiu-jitsu schools are, right? We've talked about that.
Yeah.
But like I went to visit and I had to rent one of their gis because I didn't have my old gi. I gave it away to a friend that really wanted it.
Yeah.
So I didn't have my old gi. So I had to rent one. I had to rent it for like $20. Yeah. And then like the visiting fee was like $30. It was like really, I spent like a lot of money for a drop-in.
That's pretty oppressive. Almost $50.
It was not cool. Yeah. It was not cool. I had to use one of their gis.
And you might learn breakfall.
So yeah, that night, I did do both adult classes, the fundamentals and the advanced.
So you probably got after it then.
Yeah. And Pedro felt the need to put me with like 5 black belts because I came in as a purple belt at the time. And, I get it. He didn't know what I was. So he only he picked everyone I rolled with. Yeah. And it was all black belts. Yeah. And they just stomped me. Yeah. Right.
It sounds about right. I mean, like,
you
would do the same at your school. You got to protect your students.
Maybe. But like, he had like 20 black belts there. And, I think he let me roll with his black belts and they stomped me. Like, they weren't hurting me, but they gave me no room to work. Right.
Yeah.
This is what Valente Brother Jiu-Jitsu looks like.
Yeah,
and it was cool. Like, it was cool back then. I loved it because I was part of that culture. And I think they were very welcoming and I had a great time. But, there was no me rolling with another purple belt, which is kind of what I wanted, right? Because I went to some of the other schools in there and it's a fun game. You go into this purple belt, I'm like, how do I rank against the purple belts?
Yeah, exactly.
I did not get to find that out at Valente. He put me with black belts, so I never found out.
One of the things about it's been, oh man, I left Valenti Brothers. I had an amazing experience. I mean, we could talk more about it, of course. So like this is, even though I have some differing opinions, I mean, like, dude, they've got their stuff together.
They do.
And
it's a great product.
A great product, and it is packaged well. It's evolved over the years. I mean, what I saw in 2013 is different than it was in 2003. And it's going to be different in 2023. I'm sure. I'm not connected to it anymore.
Yeah.
But like, first of all, they always did all of the black belt testing. It was done annually. It was a test.
Quasi-secretive.
It was, somewhat secret society, even though it's pretty easy to guess what's going to go on. And like the idea that they're going to go behind that door over there, which I've been in, is not that, it's not like they're going off to some, camp or something. But all of the Hoist Gracie black belts would come down from that network. And so the cool thing about that is that every December, guys would start flocking down, and you would get what you just described, where you could get a good sample size of the rest of the country. So folks would come in, they'd be purple, brown, black belts, kind of like somebody would be testing, and they'd have a couple guys in tote or whatnot. You can go down there and get good rolls with like a visiting purple belt or a visiting brown belt or whatnot.
In the network. In
the network, true. But like you'd get an idea of like, okay, this is what they're doing in Colorado, where do I stack up? It's kind of like going to a competition.
All the blue bar boys.
Or all the blue bar boys. Or going to, like a big open mat or something, like somebody that you're not used to,
Yeah, I mean, I still say with pride that I started out of Valenti Brothers, right? Like that's a huge source of pride. Because
you actually started there?
That's right. It's in terms of jiu-jitsu. Yeah, that's where
like
I
out
started.
Out of the army.
My first non-army place was Valenti Brothers, right? Yeah. And when I was there, I was training in an MMA gym also, but the MMA gym was not jiu-jitsu pure. It was MMA. So I was doing striking and other stuff there while I was training at Valenti Brothers. Yeah. And, it's a huge source of pride for me. Like, it's a different kind of jiu-jitsu. Yeah. It's very non-sport oriented.
Oh, it's totally non-sport oriented.
Yeah. It's very non-sport oriented. And, like, it was a great experience. And it's a source of pride. Like, I started at the kind of this unique, type of jiu-jitsu, right?
Yeah. They're the only people I know of in the United States that are doing it in the manner that they learned, from Helio Gracie. And I mean, like, he's the one that ranked them up. He's the one that promoted them. He's the one that's mentored them and supported them as they grew the business. And then other folks, including like the Hicks and Gracies of the world, have taken elements of it and tried to incorporate it into their curriculums. And I'm totally talking out of turn. So if I'm saying anything that's incorrect, then I hope they'll forgive me. But
I still pull from their curriculum now. Yeah. Right. The stuff like you see Punch Block. We did Punch Block series. You were there for it. Yeah. That was. You stepped right into it, and you're like, oh, I remember this from Valenti.
Yeah. We have different terminology or whatnot, but yeah, 100%, and it's good to know. The one thing, and you see, even though you started at Valenti Brothers, you had a decade of experience in Army combatives, which is heavily jiu-jitsu focused. Marine Corps martial arts was heavily jiu-jitsu focused. Yeah. We were watching Hoist Gracie fights and watching UFCs and stuff on VHS to learn. And then you were a lifetime martial artist. And so the outside world, and I had been training, probably like 5 or 6 years by the time I came in. I was that 5 or 6 year white belt that, like they couldn't wait to give a blue belt to. I like to know, like, I want to tell somebody on the sports side that, like, dude, like this stuff, what you just did, that little upside down move where, you missed my heel that you were going for, like, you probably would have gotten killed, or like this little spot you're resting in, I could have easily broken your spine or something like that. Turtle is a pretty bad spot to hang out.
Real bad.
Right? So, like, there's that extreme, and then there's the extreme on the Valenti Brothers side where it's like, dude, you might need to pick up the pace a little bit, and that's tough balance, right? That's one I struggled with.
But the balance, the word you're talking about is it, right? Like,
it's balance.
Yeah, it's balance. Like, if you never compete, you don't really know. Like, Krav Maga doesn't compete because it's too dangerous to compete, right? Like,
you won't want to see me when I'm out of here.
Get out of here. You have to, like, if you think you think that move is going to work against a non-compliant opponent, get real, right? Yeah. But if you compete and you think you're going to do a reverse, De La Hiva on someone on concrete, or go to X-Guard
or invert, concrete.
Or hell, go for a shoot. Go ahead and go for a wrestling shoot. Hit your knee on that concrete. You're gonna tear your knee open, right? Clinch, real good. Duck under, real good for self-defense. But then there's weapons change everything, right? And also the first winner of a fight is the guy whose buddies show up first.
True.
Right? And if you're deep in some like buried position, your head's not on a swivel, you're not looking around. You don't know when your buddy's gonna come up with a cinder block behind you, I'm a big advocate, if you are serious about self-defense, You got to learn how to shoot. You got to learn about clearance, learn how to use a blade. You saw that choke cord bracelet I used.
Dude, that's cool, man. I don't even remember what that's called.
Garrote. It's called a garrote bracelet.
It sounded very French.
It is French. It's a French execution tool, but it's a garrote 550 cord bracelet, crazy. Right? But you saw me work it like.
That's awesome. Yeah, you were good with it, man.
Immediate compliance.
Like, damn, Zach, get away from me.
Yeah, immediate compliance, right? But like, if you don't train with firearms, you don't train with knives, you don't train with garrote bracelets, right?
Yeah.
And you're like, well, and I have nothing against the guys that compete. I think they're dangerous men, right? Mm-hmm. But IBJJF is not concrete.
Yeah.
And you need to have an understanding, I think, of both. You want to be safe. And I say that because in reality, the place you can get hurt, you're more likely to get hurt by a training partner than by an assailant.
Yeah.
Right. I have never been hurt by an assailant in my life. I've never been hurt by an assailant. I've been hurt by training partners. All the injuries I've had have been in the gym. So like, it's what do you want? Like, if you want to do this for sport, great. I have no negative feelings about that. Do it for sport. I think that's wonderful. And you're going to be a pretty tough guy.
Yeah.
You want to do this for self-defense? Great. Do that. But I think mixture is really important. And, weapons win, right?
Sure.
Your guard, your whatever. If you think like, even the Valencia person, they're like, oh, they're going to catch the knife. I'm like, maybe. But like give, Andrew Wiltsey said this. He's like, give your 12 or 13-year-old cousin a Sharpie marker and tell him to come try to mark you. And everywhere that there's a mark on you, that's where you'd be bleeding, right? Use all the jiu-jitsu you want, but if he touches that marker, that's a cut.
Yeah.
And see if you can get away without a black mark on you. And I bet you can't. Untrained teenager, I bet you can't. And that's the reality of it. So if, you're not ready for that kind of like, the first rule of a knife fight is that you're going to get stabbed. Mm-hmm. First rule, can you make them non-lethal? Right? First rule of a fist fight, and I say this in Punch Block series. First rule of fist fight is you're going to get hit.
Yeah.
Can you make them not blows of consequence, inconsequential blows?
Yeah.
Right? And then can you get the clinch? If you get the clinch, then that fight's probably going to be yours if there's no weapons involved.
Yeah.
Right. And a striker, if I can get a clinch, because striking does not train how to deal with grappling. Grappling very commonly trains how to deal with striking.
Yeah.
But I've done Muay Thai for a long time, and there's not a lot of technique on how do we fight off someone when they get mount on us. Right? That's not really a technique. Like, how do we get back to a striking range? Very little of that, but there's a lot of the other side in grappling. How do we close the distance and grapple? Yeah,
right. Yeah. Somebody described to me once, around the paradox of what you're describing as to like it doesn't mean if you do these fancy moves, if you are only doing things that are sport applicable, it doesn't make you not tough. No different than like if LeBron James was to come in here today. I'm pretty good at jiu-jitsu. He's a world-class athlete. I'm pretty sure he's going to kick my ass.
You're going to have a real hard time.
That doesn't mean that basketball is a good form of self-defense.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
It's not taking anything away from anybody. It's just that's where the focus is at. We had guys come in sometimes, and I felt sorry for them because they had only been, and this is where expectations are off. And it's the same when I see like, having been in other gyms, having been in like Popovich's gym and trained with like a bunch of the guys down in South Florida, because there was all kinds of different, opportunities to train down there. And I'd be like, oh man, dude, this isn't gonna, this wouldn't cut it. But sometimes we would have guys that had come in and the only thing that they had been used to is like tournament training and whatnot. And dude, we do a 10-minute round. You don't know the round's going to be over when the round's over, because there usually
Submission
wasn't a round
only.
timer. Yeah, 100%. And I'd be like, Jesus, like when's this going to end? I'm like, I'm just chilling, dude. I'm good, man. My face is protected and you're on my side. Like I'm fine right now. Like I don't care, so it's just different.
You saw the boxing gloves at my gym. Like
I know I had to find mine too. I had to find them to come to your gym.
guard looks real different when the other person's got boxing gloves on.
Yeah, no kidding.
Guard's real different.
A heck of a lot different.
Gets different fast.
Yeah, it means a different thing to you. What about like leveling up for you? I mean, like obviously you mentioned, you started at Valenti Brothers. I mean, I'm assuming you had a pretty good head start, even though you had to strap the white belt on.
Didn't have to. I chose to. Like, I'm happy. Yeah. I would be a white belt today if they let me.
Yeah. You moved, eventually you and the family moved, I'm guessing for work and for business here to Texas.
No, so I moved I got out of the Army, went to Florida. Then I went to Kentucky. Went to Kentucky, went to Baton Rouge, Louisiana.
Okay.
Then moved to Texas. So I was at some Gracie gyms. I was at Gracie Baja for a little while. Mm-hmm. And I was at some various other sport, jiu-jitsu, and MMA gyms just in traveling. But, the nature of my job, I was in sales. So, every time I took promotion, I was only there about 2 years.
Yeah.
In 2 years, very few people give you a blue belt in your first 2 years. You're new to them, right?
Yeah.
Regardless of how good you are. And when I got to Paul, it had reached kind of like this like spillover point where I walked in the door and he's like, "What is going on?"
You can almost tell when you walk in, like,
yeah,
okay.
he's like, "What is going on?" Like he rolled at me once, like, "What is going on with you?"
Yeah. It's a very understandable story. I mean, like it happens to so many different people. It's not always just white to blue. I mean, there's a lot of times when you get a blue belt even that you're like, dude, come on, man.
And Paul got it.
It could be a black belt, I mean, like.
And Paul got it. Like he's like, well, and then on top of that, when I was at Paul, like I was training 16 hours a week.
Yeah.
I was training 5 to 6 days a week consistently every week.
What was your training schedule like? I mean, what racks up 16 hours?
Well, so I'd come in for the kids class.
Yeah. You have kids?
I have kids. So I'd say for both kids classes. So I'd help in the kids class, and then I'd go to the 2-hour adult class because he does 2-hour classes. And I'd come to both open mats, both 3-hour open mats a week. Right. So you just rack up time in the gym.
Yeah.
Right. And yeah, I get that the 2 hours of the kids class isn't training, but you're still absorbing technique. Like,
seriously, man.
I'm watching Paul teach, and so I had the benefit. Paul was a wonderful mentor, not just for jiu-jitsu, but for business and for communication. So like there's 3 kind of core sets in owning a gym, right? There's the business aspect, there's the jiu-jitsu aspect, like learning jiu-jitsu, and there's the communication aspect. You kind of need all 3.
Yeah.
And I got to watch all 3 from Paul as I was student number 4 at Argyle.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I was student number 4.
That's early on then. Okay.
Yeah,
when did you guys move to Texas?
Like a month after Paul opened the gym.
Okay, so early COVID.
Yeah, middle of COVID. Yeah. And I got to see, I had a mentor and a friend that showed me how to run a jiu-jitsu business. He taught me jiu-jitsu, and he taught me how to communicate. Because Paul's a master communicator, right?
Yeah.
If you ever see him talk to kids, he's a master communicator.
Yeah.
And I think he communicates better than like 3rd and 4th degree black belts I've seen.
Yeah.
Right. There are plenty of guys that are really good at jiu-jitsu, but their communication is trash, and they can't talk to kids, or they won't talk to kids properly, or they have the bad temperament for kids.
Yeah.
Paul does not have. Paul has an amazing temperament and master communicator. And I was able to study and watch that for 3 years in a lot of exposure with him. And he was nice enough to let me come to all the kids classes and help him coach and help him at tournaments. And
I'm sure it was win-win. I mean,
it was wonderful.
He's got a ton of kids, man.
I mean, think about the thing you got to do with me. Like it was just a great experience. And
yeah, we talked about that. I mean, like for me, it was like, dude, I mean, this is a part of my progression. I mean, like in order to, get better, you're going to have to kind of go swim in some waters you're not really used to,
Yeah. And I was constantly picking his brain like, hey, how are you doing this? Like, what are we on members? Like, what are you doing for this? And he was so open and enriching with me in teaching me. And like, I had not plans for opening a gym.
Yeah.
Right. It was to the point where like, we had talked, and Paul was like talking about, Justin and other locations. I'm like, I'll open one of these right now. Like I've got some capital. I'll sink in some capital. I'll open one of these right now. Let's expand the family footprint. Mm-hmm. And he drove around with me and looked for places. And the place we're at right now, Paul was the one that saw the sign. He was like, hey, go look over here. This would be a really good spot. And we pulled in, and he was the one that found this. We were driving around. He saw the for lease sign. He told me, hey, pull in here. He looked around. He's like, this would be a good spot if you can get this spot. Mm-hmm. And that's the spot we're in right now.
What is it about that spot? I mean, you've mentioned that before, that you were really bound and determined to make it that spot. I mean, what is it about it? I understand the proximity of it. I imagine that's probably a lot to it.
The communities of Roanoke, Trophy Club, Westlake. It's near the anchor store, which is Planet Fitness. Planet Fitness is, they are on a 5-year plan. They're not profitable until their 5th year. I know this because I talked to the GM over there. So they are there for 5 years, no matter what, right? In 5 years, I'm going to have a very healthy gym, right? That highway's going in right there, that intersection of Roanoke. It's just such
don't we all know?
Yeah, it's just such a good spot. And I mean, I've gotten people walking through the gym. They're just walking past Fitness.
Oh, really?
And I'm next door to a basketball training camp and a dance school. Mm-hmm. Like we have parents and kids in this little fitness community area.
Yeah.
And
makes sense.
It's been amazing. We've had 4 months, 60 students sign up. And Paul let me have pre-registrations training at Argyle before we opened. So I had like 10, 15 students ready to go on day 0 because they've been training at Paul's for free. And then I just kind of converted them when the school opened. And that was amazing setup. That pre-registration was, if we open another school, like that's the way to do it. Like, Paul,
kind of an incubator of sorts. Yeah.
I could not have done this without Paul. Like no way. And I wouldn't have. I never would have. The idea would have entered my head if I didn't have a mentor that showed me, again, all 3, like business, jiu-jitsu, communication, how to do all 3. This would have happened, right?
Yeah. You guys, it's funny because you guys are, and obviously in many ways, very compatible. I mean, you mentioned he's mentored you in all of those sort of tiers to it, but you're also very different.
Oh yeah.
So how has that worked? I mean, like the Roanoke Jiu-Jitsu and Argyle Jiu-Jitsu on paper, visually look very similar. Like you guys have clearly like, got a good connection together, but you're two different types of instructors and two different types of people. I mean, how do the differences pan out?
Because neither's wrong.
Yeah.
Right? Neither's wrong. Like, that's like saying, do you like chocolate or strawberry ice cream? Like, neither's wrong.
Well, I don't know about that. I'm not a strawberry fan, dude.
Yeah. So right, you have very strong.
There could be a wrong answer to that.
You have very strong opinions about preference, and I think everyone does. And I think everyone can have strong opinions about preference. But I think that neither of our ways of doing things are wrong. It's just preference, right? And I think we're very compatible because when Paul's a better person than me, I'll be the first to say it.
I don't know about that, dude.
Oh yeah. Paul is a much better person than me. I have a dark heart, and like Paul is just a wonderful human being. He's just so open. He's just a good human being, right? And and I've admired that about him. I've endeavored to mimic that. The community he's built at Argyle is nothing short of amazing. Yeah, right. It's something, and that is what I want to build. I want to build some community like that in Roanoke. And so that we have a sister community in Argyle that we can mix the blood. Our students can train together, and it's already starting to happen. They come there on Sundays. I send my kids there on different days. Like, we're going to have mixers where the kids can train against each other. Like, it's expanding the family footprint. It's doing the thing that I wanted to do. We're building two great communities that are very close together. Yeah. And it's been very rewarding, hugely rewarding. Maybe not financially rewarding, but it's been very emotionally and community-wise rewarding, right?
Yeah, no, I can see that. And it was fun to kind of watch everything in action as well. I mean, you've got a really cool gym, and I've watched Paul's for a lot of different reasons. I mean, first of all, Argyle Jiu-Jitsu is really close to me, and so if I want to get some cross training in, or if I want to train with some different folks, or if the schedules line up, I mean, for the last couple of years, I've gone down there. I've done several open mats. I've never really done the group classes or anything because it's, just hasn't really worked out that way. But it's been fun to watch the culture evolve, and it's been, rewarding for a lot of different reasons, to kind of met you and have been involved with some of the early days of Roanoke. What have some of the challenges been? I mean, I'm sure that, you open up day one, you've got a little bit of an incubator and whatnot. I mean, every fight has a, kind of a twist once you get your, the metaphorical cross to the face or whatnot. Have there been any of those moments that, have, I don't know, provided a little twist and turn for you?
So I'm going to knock on this very good, beautiful wooden table, like knock on wood. So
this is American elm.
Yeah, it's beautiful. So I hate to say this, but no, like that gym, and maybe it's the perspective is wrong. It's the easiest thing I've ever done because it's my passion, and nothing like even cleaning the toilets every day, cleaning up like boys' spills on the toilets every day. yeah. I mean, I'm like, what are they doing in here, right? But even that, I'm laughing about it. Like that would normally just drive me up the wall, right? Yeah. Like you really think about what you're doing, you're cleaning toilets. Like that would drive me up the wall, but like I'm laughing about it as I'm doing it because like I think when you love something, like someone could come into your house, some stranger come to your house and like drop a glass of milk on the floor and be like, what the hell, dude? But your kid does. You're like, come on, man. So if it's something you love, everything, like your wife can do things that another person would do that would just drive you nuts. But when they do it, it's endearing.
Yeah, that's a good point.
I love the school so much. And I know, like, I have two autistic children, right? I'm always cautious of like what they're going to do in life, and I'm building several businesses for them to hopefully inherit and take over and manage. And my son loves jiu-jitsu, and he loves being at the gym. And in his head, he's like, I want to be a gym owner now. Yeah, and I'm like, well, you kind of are, bud.
Little do you know,
you're
man.
Kind of there now, right? And so it's been this thing where it's like this huge. All my kids' friends are his jiu-jitsu friends, right? The community we're building is jiu-jitsu parents, like. I haven't had a hurdle. Like the hurdle, and I can't even say getting members a hurdle because we've grown faster than I expected. We 60 members in 4 months is unreal.
Yeah, no, it's impressive.
I did not. I wanted like 100 members by the end of my first year, and we're gonna get that. Like we're gonna get that. No, it's just. There are little challenges like, how do we get more women in the class? Well, we had ladies' night on Wednesday night, and we had 10 women walking out of the blue, and it was massively successful, and I could not believe it, right? Like the challenges are normal challenges that, how do we get more people to do this? How do we get more, adults? But those are normal growing challenges. There's been some supply chain thing. Getting gis and rash guards. Very exciting news coming from Origin, by the way, in terms of our rash guards and gis. So, we're going to go all Origin here very, very soon.
Nice. What were you before?
Hyperfly. Yeah, but they use Pakistani manufacturing, so it's like 6 to 8 weeks, 10 weeks lead time. Great company, love Hyperfly.
Yeah.
But we're probably going to be we are going to Origin. I've already made my first orders. And, they're going to have their gis up soon, and I'll have Origin gis. And so we are like super excited to have U.S. manufacturing. And their turnaround's like 3 weeks.
Okay.
So I can put in an order, have it 3 weeks later. Like, that's amazing.
That's amazing how much of a progress they've made in that. Because I remember in the early days, man, I mean, you ordered a gi, one gi, and it was like, is this going to be here by Christmas? Like you're still in your shorts and t-shirts. It's summertime. And
I'm also ordering wholesale, so it's not as custom made.
Yeah, right? I guess so.
But still, I mean, I'm happy I will rep an Origin brand all day long. American made, put a flag on that thing.
It's hard not to be a fan of that company, man. Yeah. I mean, like, I'm not as attached to my gis as a lot of people are. Like, a gi's a gi. I couldn't care less. I honestly couldn't. Like, I would wear the Valentines Brothers gis still. I've got a bunch of Machado gis in my closet. I've got stuff that goes back to 15 years now. But like with the Origin story and whatnot and everything that they've done and all the connections to various different little tenets in the business, including inside Double Five. I mean, like it's crazy. It's hard not to cheer for that brand.
And I don't require anyone. So I think it's stupid to require a club gi like Gracie Baja does it.
Yeah,
Valente Brothers do it. I don't like that. That's very distasteful. I would never join a gym now that required me to wear the club gi.
Yeah.
So I don't require it. But our club gi is going to be super nice.
Yeah.
Right. And so I got Hyperfly. They're really nice gis.
Yeah. You guys have cool gis. I heard some of your kids talking to me too. Like, look at my gi. They knew like what's the tensile measure, like GSM or something like that. He's like, yeah, this is a 400 GSM gi. I'm like, I don't know what you're talking about, dude.
Grams per square meter, right? Like the thicker the
no idea what you're talking about.
Yeah. So like a judo gi is like a 450 GSM. It's a really thick gi.
Really? Okay.
Yeah. So like our Hyperfly gis are really thin. The training gis, they're like 250 GSM. They're a thinner gi. It helps for like grips and stuff like that. So like thinner gis are easier to grab. Thicker gis are like kind of hard to get a grip on,
cool.
Right?
Cool. They're also hotter.
Yeah, they're hotter. But like, so I train in a like a 250 and I compete in like a 550.
Dude, I would never have even thought about this as like, I don't even have any idea what
So grab my gis. Like, next time you're at the gym, like grab my 250 gi and then grab my 550 gi and see which one you like grabbing. Which one hurts more when I pull away? It's going to
be the thinner one.
The one that I pull away, like see which one hurts more when I pull away, right?
Okay.
So that's why you wear a thicker gi, but like...
I'll think about that.
Yeah, but like, I'm really proud that we're going to have Origin there. And like, I told them like, look, I will rep you on our website. Mm-hmm. It's going to be... It's been a great company to talk to so far. I'm glad they're expanding. So yeah, we're very exciting news to go. And some of that supply chain stuff, like learning how to run a business. Like I had to learn how to get like I got a bookkeeper and tax accountant and all this stuff that like...
I got a guy.
Yeah. Like, I had to get like, my bookkeeper is actually one of the moms of my members.
I think that seems to be a trend. There's this jiu-jitsu barter system, right? Like, maybe you give your kids a couple privates or something like that.
No, I pay her. I just pay her.
Yeah. That's one you don't want messed up.
Yeah. I don't like, we're not bartering that. I'm going to pay you I'm going to pay you. You're worth it.
Fair enough.
But like, it's just, it's cool, right? Like I've had no major hurdles.
Yeah.
And nothing in my life has ever run this smoothly. And maybe it's my perspective because I love it so much. Nothing it can do, like your baby can't be ugly, right?
Yeah.
And my baby's not ugly, right? Like there's been nothing about the gym that I've been like, God, I hate running. Like every day it's just been, every little hurdle has been like, oh, this is funny.
Yeah.
Like it's just, you flow with it so much better. It's truly, if I could do the gym full time, I would.
Yeah.
Right now I can't because it just doesn't generate that kind of revenue. It barely pays for itself.
It probably makes sense to have kind of like, the way you've got it right now, from the time classes start to the end of the day, essentially, like the gym is open and it's full-time packed and there's a bunch of people in there. So, it essentially is as full-time can be right now. It seems. I don't know what else you would do.
I could have a noontime class. I could have a daytime. I could have a daytime homeschooling class, which I would.
It's a good point.
If I could do this full-time, I would have daytime classes for homeschool because we're homeschoolers. I'd have a noontime class, right? I could expand that curriculum if I didn't have to be committed to another job.
I gotcha.
Day.
Yeah.
And maybe one day. But the long-term goal for that school is, I've always said, I want to turn it into donation only. Right? There's very few gyms in the country that do that, and they're actually successful. A pure donation only system. I think it sends the right message, right? Like, I just want you in here. If you can pay $50, you can pay $100. Here's the suggested donation. I'd love for you to pay that. But if you don't, we'd just still love to have you.
Yeah.
We are not there yet, right? We're not there. That is...
Need some more founding members.
We need a better population, but we're getting there, man. Yeah. I think we'll get there by the end of the year. I think we're going to be 100 members plus by the end of the year.
That's great.
Doors start opening, right?
Yeah.
With funding, springboard mats become a reality.
Changes a lot of things.
Right? Like lacquered floors, like different things start becoming a reality as more members come in. And the money at the school make right now is going right back into the school.
Yeah.
So it's kind of cool. I've had no challenges.
One of the things that I remember talking to you about, and, it goes back to that first lunch we had, which was just two guys talking. I mean, like, it was a lot of fun, to get to know you. And I remember thinking, like, we share a lot of similarities just in the way we think through business, and I remember you talking to me about the way you view your product. And I was like, I really like the way that you describe that. And so do you mind talking just a little bit about kind of how you view that and how you view your product at Roanoke Jiu-Jitsu?
Yeah. So, I mean, I looked at it as a business case, right? I did the MBA business case study on it. And so I went to, and I'm not,
PTSD.
I know. Like, so I didn't like it when again, back to, I hated it when I did it for the MBA.
Yeah.
But when I did it for my business, I loved it, right? It was a great, real experience because, again, it's something I loved. I went, no joke, I sat in every martial arts school, I think in like a 30-mile radius of us. I just went to all of them and I sat in quietly and I watched a kid's class and an adult's class. Everyone, Dragon Kim's, ATA, like all, like even the Taekwondo stuff, right? And there was a common thing, and I was like, how are these Taekwondo schools doing so well? Because their product is trash, and I'll say that. Like, Taekwondo is just not. It's just it is, right? Like, no one takes it seriously for a reason, and like. But jiu-jitsu is a better product. Like, come on, like everyone that's listening to this podcast, jiu-jitsu is a better product. Don't act like you don't. And I just did not understand how these schools were just, and you just look at their pricing, like, for a family of four, it's like $600 to $800 a month at some of these Taekwondo places. I have the pricing at my school. I look at
that is,
and 6 to 8 weeks is a testing fee of like $80, right? Something like that.
Yeah.
Just money machines. And I'm like, how are they so successful? And I'm like, their product's trash. The product. I had to redefine what the product was. Mm-hmm. The product was not the martial art. It was not jiu-jitsu. It was not Taekwondo. The product was the feeling that the families get when they are in and when they leave the gym, right?
Yeah.
Like when they're in that gym, what is the feeling the parents get? And I felt that feeling was the product. And that product was consistently good in all the schools I saw that were successful. They had the good product and the parents had a good feeling of satisfaction, reward, their kids learning dignity, humility, respect, whatever it is. Like before they kicked and broke the board, they'd be like, respect, dignity, honor, and they'd punch the board. I'm like, okay, so if you yell those three words before you get in a fight, you're going to be in a lot of trouble. Yeah. Right?
So it's clearly not about fighting.
It's not about fighting. It's not about Taekwondo. It's about the feeling. And some parents want the feeling that my kid is learning honor, duty, respect before he punches a board that the instructor's breaking of his hands. There's that feeling. And I was like, okay, can I generate that feeling and teach them how to fight?
Yeah.
And the answer is yes. In fact, it goes hand in hand together. If the parents get that feeling, they're more inclined to give me their kids so I can teach them how to be real fighters, right? So generating, at first I was like, oh man, I don't want to be dirty and just market this and give them, but I'm like, you don't have to. If I can make the parents feel good, they will have trust in me. And that trust and confidence will allow me to train their kids to be proper fighters. So when that other kid goes, with like his like karate stance, like honor, duty, respect, my kid's gonna be double legging him, right?
Yeah.
And so that was the conclusion I came to. I'm like, I can do both. In fact, one helps the other.
Yeah.
And so, you look at my gym, there's a toddler playpen, right? There's a very expensive Keurig with nice coffee K-cups, and there's padded bleacher seating, right? And there's really clean bathrooms. I separate the bathrooms in boys and girls, not because I care about that, even though there are only two genders. I did that because the boys all go to one bathroom and then the moms get to go to the cleaner bathroom, right?
Good point.
So that is why one bathroom is consistently less clean than the other. And the moms get to use the women's bathroom, which is consistently just cleaner than the one all the little boys use.
Right. Even if it's just volume. Well, it is.
It is volume of pee. It is. Yeah. So the moms appreciate that. They get to go to. The gender specific bathrooms allows the moms to have a cleaner bathroom.
Good point.
It's a nicer experience for the moms. They have a nice coffee out of Yeti mugs.
Yeah.
It's a good experience. And if moms have a good experience, they have soft bean bags. They can sit with their toddlers, so the toddlers aren't climbing all over the gym. They've got a contained space. They can sit with their kid and play with blocks on a padded floor in the playpen. They're going to be more inclined to bring their kids to me. They're going to have a better experience. If they bring their kids to me, I will make warriors out of them.
Yeah,
right?
I love it, man.
You bring your kids to me, I will make something out of them. I just need you to trust me with that. And I'm going to build their trust by building a comfortable space for you. and make your kids love it, and your kids are gonna have a good time, and that's gonna be a good feeling, and then we can instill the jiu-jitsu.
Yeah, I love it.
And make sure that feeling is not now instilling something useless like taekwondo. Right?
Yeah.
So that product was we retooled the gym, right? And that's when you walk in my gym, like I make no apologies for it. It's a family friendly, Christian friendly, homeschool friendly gym.
That's great.
I've never it's on my website. I make no apologies for it. That's what we are. And it's been very well received.
Yeah.
And I'm thankful for that.
Dude, the coffee alone. I remember the first night I was there. Again, I'm not some veteran instructor, right? And so I'm sitting there. I just finished my first 2 kids classes in my life, and I'm like, I've got the 1,000-yard stare. I'm kind of looking out like, man, you don't know. You weren't there. You were there. Logan's mom, super nice lady. She's sitting there, and
she's my bookkeeper, by the way.
Is she really? Okay,
yeah,
fine. She was an accountant. We have that in common then. I'm sitting there with, she's sitting there with a cup of coffee, and I'm like, oh my God, that smells so good. I could just use a hit, like give me something. I got to get back out there still, so that's cool. I can appreciate that. And I really do admire the way that you've kind of differentiated that and sort of redefined and repackaged the way that you view the product. It's a shame about, okay, because again, and I have no idea what your viewpoint is on this. Well, actually, I kind of do, because you don't hold much back, obviously. But there's this, and this is the whole community, right? And it's been screwed up by a bunch of morons that put this mystique on martial arts, right? And it, kind of, you were talking about the Krav Maga, like, oh, you don't know, or old school karate guys that are like, I learned in the woods and I can't teach you this or whatnot. See, I've got a black belt in karate. I got it in Okinawa, and I never had that experience. There was never anybody that was ever claiming that, I'm going to do this front snap kick and your head might fall off or something like that. So therefore you can't feel it. It was just training. It was an activity. It was something that was ingrained in their culture. And we would do kata. I love kata. I also don't go around and say okay, I'm going to move to the left, and this is when the guy falls down. And it drives me nuts, man. It makes me want to just freaking strangle somebody, because I see how good that can be. And think about it. Physical fitness, memorization, agility, just a number of different things, all of the same community benefits that you can get from jiu-jitsu. But then it's screwed up because people will be like, I don't know, I'm going to kick your head off, or I might put a hole in your heart or something, some stupid
wushu
stuff.
Death touch.
I hate that, man. It drives me crazy. And especially as a karate guy, I would almost consider myself first and foremost a karate guy. And I can't even say it like that. My wife's going to lose her mind when she hears me speaking like an American on this, but I just had a totally different experience, and I understand the experience, and I saw it in America, and that's why I stopped training in America. When I got back to the States, I remember I located back to Fort Worth. That was my last duty station. There was a group of Marines that were there, and I had less than a year, and I'm like, cool. I've been training karate in Okinawa. I'm going to find a place here. And I went out to this place, and I don't even know if they exist anymore. Probably. Yeah. Eye rolling, probably. And they're bowing to the water fountain and using messed up Japanese words and all this other stuff, making up these sayings and things this means impenetrable castle wall. And I'm like, no, it doesn't. It doesn't mean anything.
You know Japanese too.
You don't have any idea what you're talking about. But anyway, I don't even know why I went on that tirade, but it's because of the way that those others. And jiu-jitsu is so just results oriented. Dude, I'm going to grab you. You're going to grab me. We're going to go down. Lie. They don't lie at all.
The mats don't lie. You can put whatever belt you want.
And that's been, and now couple that with just the freedom of information that flows. You really can't hide from it anymore.
And the creativeness that's coming out from the mixing of wrestling and now no-gi grappling.
Yeah,
right?
seriously.
The lower extremity. You've got some black belts that are getting some rude awakenings when they discover no-gi, lower extremity heel hooks, right?
100%, man. 100%.
Bad days. I'm one of them. I'm not a no-gi guy.
Same here. We all are. Everybody, unless you do this all day, every day, it takes time. You need to explore these zones to get really good at them, and it's a lot different than just getting exposed to it. And who knows, man? There's all kinds of different zip codes to go play in, and you need to like engulf yourself in it. My game's changed totally since I got to Formigas in ways that I never would have thought. I never thought I'd be a lasso guy. Like I didn't even know what it was before I got here. You know?
I'm going through a lower extremity no-gi like hardcore seminar in my own life right now. Like,
that's awesome.
Because I'm not good in no-gi.
You're having to play in an area that's just uncomfortable, in order to progress.
Yeah, like I'm looking to go out to Planet Fitness, or not Planet Fitness, 10th Planet to like work with their no-gi guys, right? Yeah. Just because I want like drink from the fire hose.
Bring a notebook so you can like study the terminology, dude. I trained at 10th Planet Austin when I lived there.
Well, I did 10th Planet Lebanon.
I never knew what the hell they were talking about. I'm like, what is this? What are you talking? What's this move you just said? Like, I don't even know what this terminology is different.
Yeah, and it's just so that's my gap that I'm trying to identify. I'm trying to work it out. But like, so with the whole karate thing, I think that, and I'm not the first person saying this. Is not like the world according to Zach. I think there's a delineation between martial arts, which is great, what you're talking about, and combat sports.
Yeah,
right. Martial arts, your whole word salad or whatever. And again, this is not me that came up with this, but I think combat sports generally accepted there are 4 pure disciplines in combat sports, right? Jiu-jitsu, Muay Thai, boxing, wrestling. That's it. MMA is an amalgamation of different arts. Sambo, I think you could also say that, right? So as a kind of amalgamation of different things.
Yeah.
Right. But if you talk pure disciplines, there are 4 pure disciplines. And when you want to be a well-rounded fighter, you kind of want to mix those 4 pure disciplines together, right? Jiu-jitsu, wrestling, boxing, Muay Thai.
Yeah.
And if you are good in any one of those, you're off to a really good start.
Yeah.
And if you have a mix of, there's kind of 2 grappling ones and 2 striking ones, if you can kind of cross-pollinate a little bit, you get to be a really well-rounded fighter.
Yeah.
Right? Someone that you probably don't want to play with on any given day. And as you get more of them in, especially as wrestling works into jiu-jitsu and becomes submission grappling, and I think that's a really nice development for the sport. Even though I'm not a no-gi guy, I think it's a great development because it's televisable.
True.
It's marketable.
Yeah, it's quicker.
Yeah, like ADCC has a bigger crowd than IBJJF Worlds in terms of viewership. Right? Let's just face it. Like it's easy, it's funner, it's more fun to watch, right? Funner. It's more fun to watch, right? Like. I think it's good for the sport, and I don't think that the gi is going to go away, but I think that as we get more into this, like, prove how good you are at this, right?
Yeah.
You get to know the mats don't lie.
Yeah, no, that's very true. Well, I took us off on a tangent. My tirade over kata.
I get it, man.
Somebody finally got to hear that. But back to your school. You guys have been up and running now for 4 months, 6 months.
4 months as of this week.
Crazy, man. Congrats. What, there's a lot more things that I want to talk about just in terms of like perspective and balance and whatnot. But what's next for Roanoke Jiu-Jitsu? Are you guys status quo or?
No. So we are to raise members and get money to buy the Fuji springboard floors. It's $24,000. That's a big fundraising effort right now. Just to get enough members where we can, we can pay
profitable enough to
to improve the school. Yeah, well, the school's self-funded now. Like it's paying for its rent every month. I want to save up enough money in the school's account that I can buy $24,000 of springboard, like
big capex plan.
Yeah, exactly. Right. It's Baltic birch, plywood, and springs. It's so expensive, but
really? Dude, I didn't know that.
Yeah, so it's $24,000 of springboard mats. I've already got the quote from Fuji.
Had you not told me that, I wouldn't have even noticed. I thought your mats were freaking nice, dude.
They are. So the mats in there right now are $24,000 of mats right now.
Okay.
I have to double that. And I could have gotten those mats for $6,000, right? I could have gotten, I could have gotten rolled out mats much cheaper for like, I could have matted that same floor space for $6,000. But my wife, when we started this, she's like, okay. I'm like, how much money do you need? I'm like, okay, probably 60, 80 grand to, pull out of our bank account to do this, right? And she's like, okay, here's the only thing I have. I know it's your passion project and I know how your autism is. Do not get something you don't love. Just do not do that because you're going to be pissed and you're going to want to rip it out and get something new. And I'm not going to deal with a husband who's living in a space that he's not 100% happy with.
Yeah.
And I'm like, you sure? Can I get that in writing? She's like, no, just get what you want. So I got Fuji Match. I got Yeti mugs with our logo engraved on them. You did. Right?
You went all in, man.
Like she gave me.
You took the pill and.
She gave me a blank check and oh man, I used it. I got exactly what I wanted, right? And when the $24,000 comes from the school, we're buying springboards, baby. And then, have a really nice gym. Like we have a nice gym now.
Yeah, dude, it's beautiful, man. So I guess just kind of rounding it all off. I mean, anybody that's in the area, Roanoke Jiu-Jitsu down on 114 and 377. And if you're in DFW, then go see Zach at Roanoke Jiu-Jitsu. Talking about some balance, because again, that's kind of what the point of this podcast is. I mean, sometimes it's difficult because, even me right now, man, I mean, maybe I've kind of like fallen over into the dark side a little bit and put a little bit too much focus on my jiu-jitsu. But for most of my life, it's been about, how do I manage my life, my family, my career, and the desire to make this last as long as I possibly can. Sometimes you end up taking a little bit of time off. And you have to deal with that. I mean, you've moved a lot, you've changed jobs, you've changed schools. I mean, have you ever had to take any time off or have there ever been any of those types of attritters that have sort of just slowed progression down, I suppose?
Yeah. So I do kind of have a different view. Like progression's a word a lot of people use. Right?
Yeah.
And I've never really had this, like, I've got to progress X amount in this amount of time. I've got to get this belt. I'm just happy to be there. I'm literally the guy. I'm just happy to be there.
Yeah.
My only goal for jiu-jitsu was always like, who else can I get to join the cult? Right. Like when I get into something, I don't just drink the Kool-Aid. I make the Kool-Aid.
Nice.
Right. And I'm really interested in getting, like, I want everyone to have a really good time. So I guess I'm a little different. If I had taken a break, it's because jobs or something that wasn't school nearby. It was just not practical for me to train. But any time that it was practical for me to train, I trained not because I wanted to get better at jiu-jitsu, because that comes. I just love doing jiu-jitsu, right? Like I love being on the mat.
Yeah. 16 hours a week. I mean, as a hobbyist, essentially. I mean, like, that's a commitment.
Yeah. And I have a very good friend named Spencer. He is, I think, when we talk about, like,
Spencer's becoming infamous on this podcast. He was talked about quite a bit in Paul's episode too. So, I mean,
he's the pride and joy at Argyle now.
Now Zach is plugging him.
Yeah. And, organically grown purple belt. One of the best at Argyle, honestly. But he is so deliberate and particular about his jiu-jitsu. He writes stuff down.
I see it, dude. I see him get done with rounds and go type things in his phone. I'm like, oh man, he's taking notes. That's gonna come back to me.
He takes discipline and progression seriously, and he's deliberate about his progression. I'm not that guy.
Yeah,
I am. Spencer will pass me up in the next 2 years. No question. He'll pass me up in terms of ability, right? I can barely handle the guy now. He is
same.
Yeah. He is. He focuses on progression, and I think that's amazing. I am not that, right? I am there. If I learn, great. If I don't, hey, I got to do some jiu-jitsu. Yeah. Right? Like, for me, it's not like, this is just me. Yeah. I have no pressure to my jiu-jitsu, right? I have no pressure to try to get better. I'm like, hey, if I want to develop something, it's because out of interest. I'm like, I want to see what this heel hook thing is all about. Mm-hmm. Hey, these wrist lock things are kind of cool. What are they all about, right?
Isn't that progression?
It is, but it's like homeschool, right? It's not like a curriculum, like I've got to do this, and this amount of time. It's interest-led progression.
Yeah.
Right? So I'm just kind of doing the things I enjoy, and I'll get better at them when I get better at them.
Yeah.
Right? And if you can have that, I think that if anyone is struggling with progression, if you can have that attitude of, like, just do the stuff you enjoy, and when you get better, you get better. If you have some expectations of, I must be this good in this amount of time, you will always be disappointed.
That's so true,
right?
Man.
You'll always be disappointed.
So
if you
true.
say, if your goal, if your win criteria, right, like green win criteria is, I had a really good time today, then you win. You did what you came to jiu-jitsu to do, which is have a good time. It's a good community. It's a great thing. And if you can just do that a lot, you can't help but get better. Now, you're going to not maybe get this as fast as Spencer does. Spencer gets really better really fast because he is so deliberate. But if you can't do that, if you don't have that attitude, and Spencer does have that geared mindset for that, that's okay too. You don't have to be that guy. You don't have to be me. You don't have to be anyone. You can just be you.
Yeah.
If you can just be on the mats and be happy with just that, you will progress. You will get better. And you will have a fulfilled jiu-jitsu journey. And that's where I'm at. Like, if I never... Man, Paul forced purple on me, and he forced brown upon me. I was like, I'll stay right here. He's like, no, We cannot have you go into competitions like this. This is not appropriate.
Fair enough.
You know, there was a campaign in the school for me to get like my purple, right? They're like, you can't let him stay at blue.
I know plenty of people like that.
And there's a campaign.
I was never party to that. I was time and grade.
Yeah. And there are guys that are like, you can't let Zach stay at purple. This is just not appropriate. And I'm like, I want it. I would be 5 years at purple.
Yeah, again, it's not your fault, man. I mean, like you trained jiu-jitsu for a decade plus or whatever. And you know, I mean.
And if I never get a black belt, I'm okay with that too, right? I am just happy to be on the journey, and you will get better. And I'm developing a different set of skills now. I'm learning how to teach kids. I'm learning how to teach adults. I'm retooling how to describe certain things. I'm learning about, use, like the belly button thing, like point your belly button. That is very well received by the kids, right? It's a tactic I use. It's just different wording. I'm learning to be a better communicator. These are things that carry on in life. Yeah. Right? Like,
how can kids not know perpendicular, but they know consequential and inconsequential?
Well, I don't teach that. I don't teach that to the kids.
I'm joking, man.
Right? That's an adult thing, right? For the kids, I do, hits that matter versus hits that don't matter, right? You have to change the words, right?
I'm just joking, man.
Consequential versus inconsequential is a, big kid and
that's a big kid and an adult term.
Yeah, the little kids.
Unless you're Dave and you roll in there with.
Well, also they're not taking blows. Like for little kids, all I do is like, hey, I want you to touch his face, right? Don't let him touch your face. Yeah. And the kids are trying to like touch the face, and the kids are trying to keep their hands off, right? Yeah. And I'm like, don't reach for the hands, just protect your face. And they're like, Yeah. So, and you guys can't see, but I'm covering my head in a punch block series, right? But you got to use different terms. You can't say, hey, blows, because they're like, what do you mean blow? Like, you can't say blow, even blows. Like, first time I said to the kids,
they don't know the slang.
Yeah, I said blows, and one of the kids blew on the other ear. They're like, I'm like, okay, we're going to change that word. Don't let them touch your face. And so the kids are now trying to touch your face, and they're protecting their head, right? Yeah. And that was real. So I'm learning better ways to communicate, which is good in life. Yeah. If you can, and not just with kids.
It's helping you develop in jiu-jitsu too.
It is.
Yeah. And you're having to really dissect each one of these movements and each one of these techniques so that you can explain it in the most elementary and basic way possible.
Not just elementary, but not everyone learns the same way.
Yeah.
Right. And I am a very clinical learner. Like one of my best professors, he was a spine surgeon at Valente Brothers.
Scuderi.
Okay, Scuderi. Yeah, Guy Scuderi. You know him, right?
Yeah, dude. He's a stud, man.
He is a stud and amazing human being. And he used to describe to me when he was rolling me, he would clinically talk about what he was doing, like he was discussing surgery. Like it was like, I'm going to make an incision here. And he would talk jiu-jitsu to me like a doctor as he was like folding me like laundry. Yeah, he's like, I'm now going to put your knee here as I put pressure there. I'm going to do a knee cut pass, controlling the head moving. And I'm like, what are you doing to me?
Stop.
How are you so calm?
I know, man.
And so now I took that. That was like one of the best skills I took from it. And now when I teach, when I'm doing my jiu-jitsu, I endeavor to, if I can't talk it, I'm moving too fast. Yeah. Right?
That's good. That's actually a really good way to look at it.
Yeah, I move at the pace that I can speak it. And I think that helps people absorb, because you move too fast, they're not going to see it. Yeah. So I do the thing that I'm speaking and I move it. And I think that's been very well received. And I love.
That's a good tip.
I love that I get to learn that, right? I'm learning that skill too.
That's a really good tip. I noticed that too. I noticed that for me, like when I have practiced instructing a move, like that's something that I've noticed as well. Like, man, it just like every step he's taking, he has a description for it. But I mean, now that you kind of break it down like that, I mean, that's the simplest way to put it.
It's the pace of speech.
That's good. That's actually a really good tip, man. That's something I'm going to take away personally. It's funny because like you have to, I mean, I've said this a million times and I've told friends this as well who have been kind of stuck in a rut. I'm like, at a certain point, you have to take control of your own training. Like, I mean, obviously you're on a curriculum, you're on a path. I'm not suggesting that you dislocate from what everybody else is doing, but like you kind of described it in an interesting way, which is like, you have to find a way for you to enjoy it, And so if there's things that interest you and things that you want to dive into, that you need to take control of that for yourself. And
what else, why are you doing this?
Apparently right now you're in this frightening phase of becoming a leg locker and a heel hooker. And so, I mean, that's what you're into, and it's keeping your interest peaked. And so,
why else are you doing this, man? Like this is a painful, emotionally crushing sport. If you can't look at it with joy, you're letting someone else just mess you up.
Yeah.
Every night.
That word right there, man. That was we put out an episode today. I mean, obviously we're recording and this is going to come out in the future, but like Jose Balda brought up an interesting point. Like when asked like how to keep on the mats, and I don't remember what the specifics were, but I mean his terminology was like, man, you got to find your joy. There has to be an element of that in there, or you just won't last, you know. And I've heard this described in so many different ways, and I remember a friend of mine once said that like he had this turning point in jiu-jitsu where he was driving home and he realized each time he was consecutively driving home, he was hating the results of what had happened that night. He was like digesting like a loss or how he could have done better or whatnot. And like, dude, jiu-jitsu is going to provide so many opportunities for failure. And if that's what your focus is,
that's not good.
Dude,
it's not healthy.
It's not healthy. You know, it's definitely not going to be, you know, a prescription for, you know, to make it to the next day. I mean, so, you know, that's an interesting way to kind of, I don't know, close off that topic, I suppose. But what about your career in jiu-jitsu? I mean, you've got an interesting background, obviously, and I know more about it than I probably legally should, it sounds like. But I mean, any connections? I mean, now obviously, I mean, the business acumen and whatnot has proven quite handy. But I mean, as a martial artist, as a successful entrepreneur, as a business person, I mean, are there connections that you've seen just throughout, or loosely or directly?
So I would say there's a Jeff Bezos doesn't like the term work-life balance. He doesn't like it. Yeah. He calls it work-life synergy, right? And he thinks because if you have balance, it means you're sacrificing something. And
interesting.
And yeah, if there's a balance, like he's like, there's a give and take, right? And that's not a good way to live a life of productivity and joy. He says, you know, if you have work-life synergy, everyth's a task. You prioritize urgency, importance in the spectrum. So like, how urgent and important is it? And like taking out the garbage is just as important. It's just another task, like sending this email for these financial reports, right? They're all tasks. And these are all the tasks. Going to your kid's soccer game is a task. And it ranks up there in level of importance and urgency with all your other tasks. And life is just a series of tasks. And if you can do that appropriately, then you have work-life synergy. You're not sacrificing life for work. You're just mixing everything together. And I have found that I prioritize jiu-jitsu very highly in my life, right? But I also prioritize my time with my kids at the gym. So I have that synergy of my son coming in at 2:00 in the afternoon to do an hour with me of jiu-jitsu, right? And now I'm picking jobs that allow me, you know, could I get higher paying jobs than what I take? Yeah, but I would be gone, you know, 75% of the time. And so I don't take those jobs, right? Yeah. And that results in me being home more with my kids. So I have that synergy with my kids. And I do I do remote jobs now. I don't do jobs that require me to go in office, right? I work out of my gym. So now I have that productive. And when I'm productive, right? Yeah. Because I know that this is the time for me to do this. And when this time is over, I'm going to get to have my time at jiu-jitsu, or time with my family, or time with my wife. And I am hyper efficient in the times I need to be hyper efficient. And I'm hyper happy and enjoying in the times that I do these other things. And now we've gotten this really nice mix where the thing I do as a hobby is now starting to generate a revenue. And now it's starting to generate a place for my family to be at. And my wife and kids are at the gym. And we're just having this really great experience where business and personal and community are all kind of apexing together. And without jiu-jitsu, I never would have been able to figure that out. I never would have been able to figure out a way where my hobby, my family, and my potential source of income apex in this really beautiful thing at the gym. Yeah. And it's doing that now. And we're in the very early stages of, if we have 150 members, there's going to be a very real discussion about me just doing the gym. Right. Yeah. And we're at 60 in 4 months. 150 doesn't seem that far away anymore.
Yeah, right. Exactly. It just
doesn't seem that far away.
Distance anyway.
Right. It just doesn't seem that far away. I mean, and if I can get that, we're going to have a very serious discussion about the gym. And I've got other businesses too that, you know, bring us supplemental income. And we can cobble together enough income where I can quit my job and we can truly have this source of income, community, and family, you know, entity, right? I mean, that's something jiu-jitsu gave me. Yeah. Right. And it gave me it not because I was looking for it. It gave me it because I fell ass first into it. And was willing to take a little risk and take out some money and, you know, kind of do the thing. But it's been
started a business. I mean, you're an entrepreneur. It comes with the turf, right?
So. Yeah. And it's been beautiful. And so, yeah, it's motivated me to pick what right looks like. Gary Vee, we were talking about Gary Vee before. So he talks about like people that make, you know, $40,000 and are just so happy of life. And guys that make like $3 million are just miserable, right? And like, it's kind of what you make out of your life. And I'm making a life that I'm, one, really happy with, really love. And we talk about legacy. My kids will have a business to fall into that they love.
Yeah.
Right. And just how many people would love their kid to be a 20-year-old black belt and inherit a school?
Yeah.
I would love that. Right. That would be a great dream. And you're like, hey, open up a second school. I'll help you. Your sister will open up one. Right.
Yeah.
Kind of a cool thing.
Wherever they end up in life. Yeah.
Wherever they end up in life.
That's really cool.
Right. Yeah. And just, it's a cool, so jiu-jitsu gave me that.
Yeah. No, that's an interesting set of connective tissue. And I think I'd heard that before. I'd heard some element of that before, but I mean, it really got me thinking while you were describing that. And I'm kind of, gosh, I am not 100% sure how I feel about this yet, but I've gone through this phase and I'm kind of in this phase right now where I just think that you talked about work-life balance, right? It doesn't exist because instead there's these elements of synergy, and that synergy is just a series of prioritization, essentially. These are all tasks. You lay them out. One's more important than the other. Simple as that. There's no balance that's achieved. That's just a consequence, right? You are a jiu-jitsu school owner. That's to a lot of people the dream gig, especially if you're practicing jiu-jitsu. Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. But for somebody that wants to make jiu-jitsu a higher priority, but has to go into that office, that has to go and suffer through the life in a cubicle or whatnot, do you have a message to them?
Find a new job. I know it sounds,
that is it 100%.
I know it sounds so simple, right?
Yeah.
But it sounds so simple, but
if you're not happy,
do
something different.
And if you can't, ask yourself why. If you don't have the skill sets to not work in that cubicle, you need to go get those skill sets.
Yeah.
Right. I know that simple, the statement is simple and the task, the execution is very complicated, but that's the reality. If your skill set is making phone calls in a cubicle, first of all, I would argue there's a job out there that you can make phone calls from your home.
Right. I mean, the world is changing rapidly,
right? Especially the world today.
Yeah.
If you want to do
every day, it's leaning more towards that. I mean, there's this fight.
Great.
Yeah.
And by the way, if you really want to talk about it, and again, Gary Vee, huge guy. I'm such a big fan of his. He talks about the great. We're not talking about the great people that are the great quitting, right? People leaving the jobs. Think about the people that never even apply, because there's a kid out there who can make 80 grand on TikTok.
Yeah.
Right. We have an Amazon FBA, right? There are kids that can go do reselling on Amazon, make 50, 60 grand on a high school education, make 80 grand, 120 grand on TikTok as an influencer. Yeah. Those kids are not going to apply for your $30,000 job in a cubicle. They're not going to do it.
Yeah.
Right. Where you have to go through the interview process and be get bent. I have everything. Totally. I have everything I need to dance on TikTok. And I'm not talking the indecent stuff. I'm not talking OnlyFans. I'm talking really just makeup tutorials, how to cook. Yeah. There are guys that I've seen how to there's one guy he's making more money. He said he's a painter, and he's painting houses. He makes more money on revenue of him painting houses than him painting. Right, he shows his painting technique. He makes more money, more revenue off of all that social media stuff.
Yeah.
He's basically now I take jobs to paint so I can get video for my
content.
Yeah, for my content. He's I make more money on my content of painting than I do doing painting jobs.
That's crazy, man.
Right, and
everywhere.
And so these are kids. They're the digital entrepreneurs. Right?
Yeah, it's so interesting.
And if you have the grind, if you're just willing to put in the grind and learn a new skill I hate social media and social media hates me, but you've seen my videos. I'm trying.
You're getting better, man.
I am trying. I'm getting a little bit better.
You got a blue belt. I'd say.
I think I got my first stripe, my white belt.
No, right? man. I'm a one-stripe white belt.
You have a podcast. You have a podcast. You're doing good.
But social media, dude, podcasts go nowhere without it.
I'm learning the algorithm. I'm learning how to try to play with it. And I talked to you, my number one video right now is me mopping my mats, and it drives me nuts because my wife and I literally made that on a Saturday morning before brunch.
That is so funny.
And videos that I took hours to make.
I've seen that video.
Yeah. Videos that I took hours to make about the class and all these fun music with the kids, fade in, fade out of the video. I'm super proud of it. It got 200 views.
That's crazy, dude. I'd die for 200 views, man.
Someone came into my school and they're oh, we saw your video on Instagram. That's why we're here. I'm oh, great. What video is it? So you mopping the mats. You didn't see the one. You didn't see the one of me teaching class. They're yeah, we saw that one later, but the first one we saw was one of you mopping the mats, and I was oh my god,
you're gonna need to repost that, man. Your little time lapse. Maybe that could be your album cover, your episode cover.
What is this world we live in? That So, but again, the algorithm, right? The mystical algorithm. You just gotta learn.
Have you ever seen the videos? I'm embarrassed to say that I know this, but I actually find these quite entertaining. There's this guy that goes out and he looks for like super unkept yards. And he goes and he
cleans them up.
He cleans them up.
I know exactly the one you
do. Dude,
and he does it for free.
He does it for free. So he knocks and you're like, I mean, dude, half the time I'd be worried I'd get shot.
Yeah.
And he's like, hey, I'll clean your,
But he makes money off the content.
It's crazy. And I mean, it's because of people like me that are sitting there just like kind of like zoned into it. I'm like, dude, that's awesome, man. I want to go cut my grass now.
So dude, think about what that dude does. Think about the good energy he's putting in the world. He's cleaning 100%. Up people's yards for free.
Yeah.
Out of that process. That need it.
Yeah.
They
dude, we're talking years.
No, I've seen them.
Of misgivings.
Yeah.
I mean,
they're usually elderly people too.
Yeah.
Right?
In a lot of cases. It seems
so he's cleaning up some
way.
elderly person's yard, making it look beautiful. He's doing it for free, no cost.
Or an abandoned house in a neighborhood or something like that.
He's putting good energy out into the world.
For sure.
He's getting content and he's making a living. That kid is not going to apply for your cubicle job.
Right,
he doesn't
100%.
get bent. He's not going to do it.
Yeah.
And so when people are like, oh, I'm working in this job that I can't escape, I'm like, but you can.
Yeah.
It's going to do some things that you don't know how to do yet.
Yeah.
But things that are very learnable and very available.
It's a good message.
You can do it. You can do it. Like, I did not know how to run a gym. And I made a video about this, about like, I had no idea how to run a gym. And it's like, I'm like, hold my beer. I'm going to figure it out. Like I might not know how, but I will figure it out. And look, I'm an average intelligence guy. I don't even consider myself that smart. Right. But man, if you have the will, and the indomitable will to just try and figure it out, you'll be fine. You'll be fine.
Hustle creates luck, man, and sometimes it just takes.
Yeah, hustle creates luck. Yeah, hustle
sometimes it just takes starting. Okay, so you've got an interesting perspective with with students now, and I think everybody kind of sees this in different ways. But I mean, for academy owners, it's particularly applicable. But whether it's your role as an instructor in your own school, or whether it is somebody who's got a lot of experience, man. I mean, like you're a well-rounded martial artist. You've got black belts in different martial arts. You've got a lot of experience in different fighting and combat sports, and then you're a brown belt in jiu-jitsu. What do you tell the white belt, man? Whether it's one of your students or somebody that you're training alongside at Paul's school, what's your advice to them? How do they stick this thing out?
Yeah, I've got a line that I use, right? And I tell it to everyone. I'm like, okay, we were all where you are right now.
Mm-hmm. So hard to believe because you just got done tuning them up, But.
Yeah, like we were all where you are right now. And some of you are younger than I was when I started. So like I've got some 30-year-old guys that are starting, their dads in the 30s, and like, oh, I'm too old. I'm like, I was older than you when I started jiu-jitsu.
Yeah.
Right. I was where you are right now. I very vividly remember what that was like. What you're feeling right now, I'm not gonna lie to you, is not gonna go away for like 2 years. So if this is so sometimes you have to
daunting.
Sometimes you have to give that to someone up front.
Yeah.
Right. You have to give it, because I think what I found is like people appreciate you're tough enough to weather this storm.
Yeah.
Right. And I'm telling them, like, look, the thing you're feeling right now, that ain't gonna go away for a while. And like, it's not going to go away for like 2 years. And then a blue belt shows up your door, and then you panic because you're like, wait a minute, I have a blue belt and I'm not very good.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But you are, you just don't know it.
Yeah.
You just, cause you're coming up for your peers, everyone's rising at the same time. You don't see it. And you never really, because you're always chasing that next thing. Like, but for 2 years,
people are coming up with you too.
Yeah. People coming up with you, right? For 2 years, this feeling of being the nail, that ain't going to go away. Mm-hmm. And if you're going to have a problem with that, if you can't live with that, man, you ain't going to make it in the sport. Like, decide that now. And they all do.
Yeah.
No one has ever, 100%, 10 out of 10 times, no one has heard me say that line and be like, I'm out.
Yeah.
No one has said to me. In fact, everyone I've said that to has galvanized them. Mm-hmm. Right? They've taken that loss, that crushing day, and then they've said like, okay, 2 years, might as well just get comfortable with this.
Yeah.
And because they don't want to quit, because they're not going to quit. But if you tell them like, oh no, you'll be fine. If you like patronize them, like, no, you'll be fine. It's okay. They're like, man, no, it isn't. This is not okay.
Yeah.
Right.
Exactly. Didn't you watch what just happened?
Yeah, it's not okay.
You were there. You were a part of the onslaught.
And in sales, they say there's two pills, right? There's this is no big deal. This is the worst thing in the world. When you go to a customer, there's two pills. The one you take, the customer takes the other one. Mm. So if you take this is no big deal, your customer has to take this is the worst thing in the world. If you take this is the worst thing in the world, your customer has to take it's okay, right? No that big deal. So like, if customer's mad, you go up, you're like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. You're obviously going to fire me. This is the worst thing in the world. I can't believe we did this to you. Look, what do you need me to do? I know you're going to leave me. It's fine. What can I do? They'd be like, no, it's not so bad.
Yeah.
Right. You have to take, so I'm going to go to my students. I'm telling them like, look, what you're feeling, No, man, I think I'm going to wait 2 years. Just go ahead and get ready for that.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to lie, because that's true. I'm not lying.
It is true. Yeah.
It is true. 2 years. You're going to and then the blue belt's going to show up, right? And then you're going to really panic.
It is skill development, skill acquisition. Time does to everybody. The most unathletic. I mean, like it's bound to absorb at some point.
Yeah. Yeah, and by the way, the feeling if there's a bigger fish, that never goes away.
Yeah, and
right?
it's true.
That never goes away. So if you think you're good, there's always someone better. That feeling never. There's someone. If you think I'm never, there's going to be. If you in your head think that there's a point where I'm not going to get smashed, that is just not true.
Yeah,
I don't care who you are. You're going to get tooled up by someone.
100%, man.
So if you can't live with that now, then this is not the sport for you. And 10 out of 10 times, no one has said to me, you know what? Here's my gi. I want my money back. Never happened, right? Yeah. They're like. They take a deep breath, like, okay.
Yeah.
And then their attitude just lightens up. They're like, yeah, it's fine. It's 2.5 years of this. Let's just go.
Yeah.
And then a blue belt shows up, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I guess it's good to have a kind of a realistic expectation to it going in. And I mean, most likely, I mean, people, dude, read a book. I mean, like you're not going to be baking cookies here. I mean, like this is a difficult thing to do. I mean, you're going to have to just, there's some funny stuff that's out there. I've seen like a really popular video where people talk about like the reason people do jiu-jitsu is because there's no answer to it. It's like this, that's unsolvable Rubik's Cube, right? You're just like, it's never, ever going to be perfect.
Yeah.
And honestly, man, if you're in a spot where that's not true, you're in the wrong spot, or like you're a phenom that just, is 1 in a million because, even now, like, every single time, not that I'm some special guy or anything like that, but it just never seems to be the case that I'm like on top. I mean, there's always somebody else that's there. I mean, like every single promotion, every single,
that doesn't go away.
It just doesn't. Yeah, exactly.
You're not cool with that. You're in the wrong place.
100%, man. 100%. On the color belt side, I mean, like once you get through the certain gauntlet, right? I mean, they always say that like purple belt is where, you won't quit because of, just, I don't know, general fatigue or whatnot, but typically life gets in the way. What advice would you have to those practitioners right there? The colored belts, the more senior folks that have ridden this storm out a little bit. They already know it sucks, but they're hooked.
Yeah.
They took the other pill.
Yeah. They took the other pill, right? Yeah. Hey, look, like, if you're a colored belt and doing jiu-jitsu, the worst part's behind you, right?
Yeah.
Like your progression. So
that's a good point.
I think you hockey stick a lot in your ability your first 2 years. Like your ability shoots up and then it plateaus. And the progression to purple, from blue to purple, purple to brown, is much more slow and grinding, right? But it's not as desperate. Right. So like as a white belt, you're trying to get to the surface of the water so you can breathe.
Yeah, right.
Right. You're just trying to get above the water line so you can breathe. You get to the top, you can breathe, and you look around, you're in an ocean.
Yeah.
And that is a daunting task. And it's a much bigger grind to swim to land or learn how to swim in the ocean. That's a bigger task. And while that is a slower grind, it's not as desperate as trying to get air.
Yeah.
Right. So at blue belt, you can breathe. You've got air. You're probably a better fighter than 80% of the population out there, untrained.
Yeah,
80% of the untrained population out there. Mm-hmm. You're above the surface, right? The next part of the journey is grinding, and it's learning how to swim in this big ocean that you now realize you're in, but you're not grasping for air. You're not gasping for air. You're not trying to get to the surface. The hard, scary part is behind you. Now it's how good can you swim, right? And you can enjoy swimming because you can't enjoy fighting for air. You can't. You need air.
Yeah.
You need to get to the surface. Once you get to the surface, though, you can enjoy the swim. Enjoy the swim, right?
Yeah.
Enjoy that deep water. Realize that it's not a threat. It's room to grow, right? People look at deep water in one of two ways. Hey, there's something scary in that deep water, or it's room for me to swim. And if you can look at that, and there's room for me to expand and grow in this giant ocean, and not see everything as a threat, but just other things that are out there, then that's going to let you grow. This is an opportunity. You've weathered the bad part. You're above the water. You're breathing.
Yeah.
Right?
That's a good analogy, man. I don't think I've thought of it that way, exactly that way. But like, if you, and I guess like if you wanted to kind of further the analogy, I don't know what phase it is, and obviously you went white belt to blue belt, purple belt, brown belt. I mean, you had this big phase, but I mean, like in a normal progression, I guess there's probably some point at blue belt where you know what's going on at this point. You know what I mean? You know that feeling like when you get a guy or a girl or somebody that comes in and they've just never trained, right?
Happens all
And
the
they're bigger, they're stronger. It doesn't really matter. And you're rolling with them, and you're like, dude, you just don't know. Like this is, I mean, you're pulling their arm behind their back. I mean, like you could sweep them at will. I mean, you know, they get to a point where you do know now, like, right? You kind of know, and you're sitting there. I guess there's a corner that you turn where you're now just kind of watching the world close in. Like, I know that I'm in trouble, and I know that there's something to do, but my brain's not processing it quick enough to know what to do, you know? And it's fun to kind of like, for me anyway, like I look at that as a puzzle, man. And it's fun to be able to sort of like, last night I was going against a couple big guys, and I didn't know like the sequences in my mind enough to get out of trouble quick enough, you know? But like when you're done, it's kind of like, cool. Like I know that that's something that I need to work on, and I need to put myself back into that situation so that I can kind of troubleshoot myself out of it. Like it's a lot different than just being completely lost. And then like you described, like I'm looking for air here.
Yeah.
Like,
how can I swim differently?
How can I swim differently?
That's what
how
you're
can I make
thinking.
It more efficient.
Yeah. How can I dive? How can I swim differently?
Yeah.
You're not,
up here, you know, like
you're not, I need air.
Yeah,
right. You're not in that, oh my God, what is that? What's touching my leg? What was that? Like,
yeah, that's such a true analogy.
That's where white belts are.
Yeah.
Right. And that's also okay. 2 years to get to the surface, you breathe.
Yeah.
And then you know, like white belt in the term of language jiu-jitsu, like white belt, you are making sounds, right? Blue belt, you know words. Yeah. Right. You can say words in the language, and you understand words. And then now purple belt, you're kind of using like little sentences. Where is the bathroom? Instead of saying bathroom, right? And white belt, like you're pointing to your butt and you're like, you know, like blue belt, you're like bathroom, you know, purple belt, you're like, hey, where is the bathroom? You know, and at brown belt, you're starting to like, you know, you're fluent in kind of the language. And at black belt, you're like an artist. You can do poetry. You can write creatively, right? Mm-hmm. Like black belt's like the poet level of the language. And brown belt, I think you're fluent in the language. You can speak it conversationally, and you know you can kind of blend in the population, right? And you can teach it if you need to. And purple belt, you can say enough phrases. You can teach it to like the guys making noises, right? And the guys that only know words, you can turn them how to string those words together. And, you know, that's kind of the journey. It's like learning a language. Yeah. You know, if you want to look at it that way. Yeah, that's an interesting way to look at it. I do. I like it. It's good advice. We talked at the beginning. You've got Tap Cancer out coming up. So, I mean, like, I know this seems like somewhat of a silly question, but I mean, people do have differing views on that. But with regard to competition, what do you tell people? I mean, people have different views. Do people have different goals? Do you compete? Do you not compete? I mean, what are your views on it? I personally love competition. And I think everyone should, if you have the opportunity and the will and the mindset to, you should compete, because you don't know. Yeah. Right? And competition is one of those things that do set us apart as a sport from Krav Maga. Mm-hmm. And I understand Taekwondo has competition. I'm using air quotes, people. But you know, you've seen those like competition in jiu-jitsu. You get another guy to say uncle. Yeah. You get the other guy to be like, nope, I'm out. Yeah. I'm noping out, right?
Yeah. Or you dominated enough to
where everyone watching is like, yeah, that dude won.
Yeah. You know, it's so true.
But there's a referee to keep things safe, to score points. But at the end of the day, the goal is make him say uncle, make him quit.
Yeah, make it unquestionable.
Yeah, make it undeniable, as I think Joe Rogan says, make it undeniable, right? Mm-hmm. And in Taekwondo and other sports, you score points. You touch. Like competing here, that dude beat you. Yeah, right. He submitted you.
Yeah, even if he was on top of you for 5 minutes. You know, he won 5-0. I mean, like it was just over. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's important. But if you can't, that's fine too. Mm-hmm. That's fine too. What are your goals, man? Is your goal to be a UFC fighter? Is your goal to win IBJJF Worlds? Is your goal to, hey, win a sword at Naga if you're a kid, right? Yeah. I have a very good friend, Taylor. He just took double gold at Naga. Probably one of the best accomplishments of his life. He's ecstatic about it. He's changed his profile picture to it, right?
Oh, really?
Yeah. And I'm going to tell the story because we're all going to make fun of him now. I can't wait for him to listen to this. He thought he was going to get a Naga belt. That's why he did Naga.
Oh, the old belts.
And he argued with all of us.
The world champion belts.
The world champion belts. And he argued that
he's like the old WWE belts, like the big, huge,
Yeah, and he screenshotted the thing that Naga says where you win it at your division, right? Okay. And I'm like, I've been to a lot of Naga competitions. They're not going to give that to you. You're going to get a medal. He's like, I'm going to get a belt. And like he flipped out when he did not get a medal. He was so angry.
What'd he get?
He got a medal.
He got a medal?
No sword? He took double gold. That's only for the kids, man. The kids get a sword. He took double gold. A massive accomplishment. He did great. Massive accomplishment.
Yeah, 100%.
He beat and he submitted.
I've trained with him.
Yeah, he submitted all his guys, I think, just all but one. I think he submitted them with Americana from top.
That's awesome.
Great job. But thought he was going to get a medal. Didn't get a medal.
Oh, poor guy.
Right. Or no, sorry, thought he was going to get a belt. Didn't get a belt. You know, and you know, fought the officials. I was there with him. I was like, Taylor, don't make a scene. He's like, no, I'm getting a belt. I'm like,
really?
Yeah. He was getting really upset.
Oh no, dude.
You know, but like that experience was a great experience, and it was good for him, and I'm so happy for him, right? And I was really proud of him because like Taylor has fought his way, scrapped his way. His jiu-jitsu was not very good when he started, but like,
was he a wrestler?
No.
Are you sure?
I'm real sure.
I thought he was a wrestler for some reason.
No, just he just has big ears, man. He just has big ears. No, but it was a great experience for him, and that is what you can have if you compete. Yeah. Maybe not your first time, but you know, if you stick with it, you can have that. Like, so much of the population has never felt what it's like to have your hand raised after you beat another human being in single combat.
Yeah.
I'm sorry that sounds dramatic, but for reals.
Yeah.
Like, beat another man in single combat and have your hand raised. Man, most of the population will never know what that feels like. And when the kids get to do it, that is a huge springboard for kids to other stuff.
Yeah.
Right? And I think if you can compete, you should. If you can't, that's fine too. That's like, you don't have to compete to get the most out of the sport. But you're not getting everything out of the sport if you don't compete.
Yeah.
You're not.
That's a good way to put it.
No, you're not going to get everything, but but you can get a lot out of the sport by not competing. But if you're so inclined, try it out. It might be a miserable experience for you.
Yeah, no, for sure. The lead up to it might just be overwhelming, and that might not be something that you want to associate with jiu-jitsu.
Yeah, but there's all these things. There's a book called On Jiu-Jitsu. Like, if you train hard for competitions, the reason why people that do
who wrote it on jiu-jitsu?
God, I don't know. It's on Amazon.
I'll have to check it out. I didn't know
it's called On Jiu-Jitsu. It's read by this really nice British guy. Really nice voice. Great to hear.
It's an audiobook.
Yeah.
Okay.
Really nice. But
I'm not an audiobook guy.
Oh, I am. Because on the plane, I just listen to it.
I just never tried. I tried it when I was running marathons, and I was like, dude, all right, give me the podcast again. Anyway, sorry, I just took.
Yeah. But he talks about things you do. Like, the reason people that do competitions get promoted faster than people that don't, it's not because they're doing competitions. It's because when you do competition, you do all the right things.
Yeah.
You eat right. You train with intention.
That's very true.
You do all of these things. You cut weight. You train purposely. You train more. And those things result in your promotion, right? Mm-hmm. That you result in that greater gain of skill. So like, when you have a goal that you're scared about, that, hey, if you don't prepare for this, someone's going to just curb stomp you, right?
Your wife's going to be there. Your
it's going to be real bad. Yeah. Like, they're going to videotape you and put it on the Facebook page. Like, you're going to want to
get exposed.
Yeah. So you do all the things. You eat right. You train a little harder. You train with intention. You go a little harder in your rules.
Yeah.
And that improves your skill set. And once you learn how to do that, you realize you can do that with life.
Yeah.
You want to make a business, you want to make, a skill set, you do all the right things to ensure you don't win a medal the day of competition. You're just there to pick it up.
Yeah.
You won your medal in the months leading up to the competition.
So it's so true.
Right?
It's so true.
You show up at that competition just to pick up your medal because you've already done the work. And now you're just going to do the last little bit and then you're done.
Yeah.
You show up in the medal and you think you're going to turn on demon mode or see red and just like wreck a competition, you're in for a bad day.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
The work comes in the months, the dieting, the training leading up to that.
That's part of it too, man. And I mean, honestly, that's a big part of, and I mean, like, if you're around those types of people too, like the dieting, the work, the hard rolls. I mean, like, whether you're competing or not, if you're in a gym where a lot of people are doing that, you're going to be a part of that. And at some point for me, like, that's when I was just like, well, I might as well just go all the way then. I mean, because I'm already getting smashed in these competition rolls.
Have you heard Formiga talk about it?
In what way?
About like the dieting. He's like, I was dying laughing when he said, we were at some seminar with him. He's like talking about him, like, does he cut? And he's like, well, when I'm eating that salad, right, every day, I'm thinking, he has the person he's fighting. He's like, you're the person making me eat this salad.
I know he likes to eat,
I will remember this on our competition day, all these salads.
That's awesome.
And it's true. Like, when I'm like, because I love In-N-Out. I go to In-N-Out every Thursday, right?
I didn't know that until recently.
Yeah, my entire school, we go to In-N-Out every Thursday. It's like our thing.
I don't know how you maintain this, dude. You have first you brought donuts. You go to In-N-Out.
I have a 35.
You're my age, dude. I mean, come on.
I have a 3,500 calorie diet.
You're just blessed. You've got good genes.
If I don't, I lose weight. But so, I mean, I eat like trash, right? So when it's tournament time, when it's tournament time, I eat broccoli.
That's what I was
chicken.
trying to getting at.
Yeah, I do eat trash. I'll admit it. I'll be the first to say it. But like, when it's tournament time, I eat broccoli, chicken, rice,
Yeah.
quinoa, right?
Yeah,
all the
way to
things
go, man.
all the things I hate, right? And when I'm eating, I'm thinking, I'm like, I'm gonna murder someone. Like, whenever it's time for the tournament comes out, I'm like, you made me eat the unsalted chicken for 6 months.
Yeah.
You know, you're gonna pay.
You're gonna pay, man.
You're gonna pay.
It's a very good point, man. And like, it's funny that you brought up Famika, because he and I were talking. And I don't know if I've talked about this on the podcast or not. I probably have, but so I apologize if it's redundant. But one of the interesting things that I found recently, like we did Dallas, right? And so we're in Dallas. So Dallas is a local tournament. The tournaments that I did before that, I had traveled, right? Yeah. When I traveled, dude, I was super disciplined, super disciplined. And I live a pretty disciplined life anyway. But I mean, I knew what I was going to eat, when I was going to eat, what, you know, where I was going to eat it, what I was going to eat it with, who I was going to eat it with. Like everything was planned out. And I just found myself like, dude, why wouldn't I? I mean, like things could go wrong. I'm traveling. Like there's a lot of variables here. Yeah. When we were in Dallas, on the other hand, I was not as disciplined. And the biggest determinant of failure while I was at the tournament, I believe, was my lack of preparation. I have nobody to blame but myself, man. Like that was already written. It wasn't like the guy beat me. I had just not done what I needed to do, and it got exposed. Yeah. And I'm talking to Famika about it, and he told me, he's like, man, he goes, that's the number one reason why I diet. Because like it puts me in that mindset where, you know, I'm thinking about this every day. Because that was the issue. You know, I wasn't. I was like, it's Dallas, man. Like I'm just going to go down the street and I'm going to roll, you know.
And those results will show.
And they did, man. Do you know Weston Vance?
No.
The black belt at our gym, and he's the head coach now at Double Five Mid City. He's a really good guy.
Oh, I know his kids actually.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, his kids have been in a train. Okay,
cool. He's a great guy, but he has an interesting take on this, and it's sort of just echoing what you just said. Those are all the tournament is a revelation of what you've already got and what has already happened. Yep. It is just simply crystallizing a moment that's already in existence.
You're showing up to pick up your medal.
That's 100% it. I like that, man. You're showing up to pick up your medal. That's really cool. All right, so kind of closing things out just a little bit here. I mean, you've got a ton of history, man. You've got a lot of martial arts background. Obviously, you've got a very interesting upbringing, all the time in the Army, all the time at different schools. I mean, I think that just probably speaks to how well-rounded of a martial artist and a fighter you are. What would you do differently? I mean, some things you can't control, right? Yeah. But some things you probably could have. And as you've come up, are there things that you would have changed in your training or in your martial arts or et cetera?
I mean, how many people say they wish they got into jiu-jitsu earlier? Right?
Oh,
I
think
everyone says that.
I wish I showed up more.
Yeah. Well, I wish I learned about this when I was a kid, or I wish I started when I was 10. Like, you know, like, yeah. Of course there's that, right? I wish I had thought of the idea. So this is actually back to that synergy thing. I wish I thought about the idea of opening this gym sooner, mm-hmm. You know, because, you know, I'm 40 and we're going to have a very, you know, interesting development here. But if I had known that this is something I was going to love so much, I could have invested that energy that I did in my 30s to save up the money I needed to and everything like that to get the money so I could open the school instead of at 30 or 41, open it at 31 and give me another decade of it. Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
So instead of me just opening my school at 40, I'd have 10-year-old school, big community, you know, something for my kids to walk into. Again, but that all goes back to you never know. Yeah. Right. But I will say, because you never know, it's never too late. And if there's something that you think you want to do down the road, start it now. Yeah. Right. Because if I didn't,
that is such an important point right there.
I didn't know, but had I known, I would have started then. But you don't know what's coming down the road, right? So if there's something you think or can even conceive down the road as being like your path, start the building blocks for that today. Whether it's learning how to make social media, whether it's maybe getting better at jiu-jitsu, maybe it's building a business, whatever it is, right? Whatever, learning a language, I don't care. If you think it's something that down the road will be fruitful and eventful and rewarding, lay the groundwork now and start chipping away at that sucker. Yeah. Right. Again, I did not know I was going to own a gym. I did not know that would be something I even wanted to do. Yeah.
Right? Sounds like it kind of just came to you one day.
It came to me. You know when it came to me?
Out of circumstance.
Yeah. I was at a tournament, and like my first tournament with Paul helped me coach the kids, and we had to the Vietnamese place because we were going to have pho afterwards. And
sounds good.
It was good.
And French bread sandwiches, man.
I was emotionally shot. Yeah. Right. And I was like, that was amazing.
Yeah.
You know, my voice was gone because I was screaming for our kids to compete. Like, it was so rewarding.
That's so cool.
And all I could think about was like, I can't wait for my son to do this. And I'm cheering for my son. And I'm like, wow, this is great. I'm like, I want to do more of this.
I want to replicate these feelings.
Yeah, I want to replicate these feelings of like community and loving the kids and seeing them compete and my friends competing. I'm like, how can I do more of this? I got to go to gym. And then it just kind of, and from there, and so I'm not necessarily impulsive, but like I have two switches, like off and on.
I noticed that, man. You don't seem to have much of a throttle.
Yeah. I do in jiu-jitsu.
I mean, I've only seen you on, so I mean, I don't know. Maybe there's a mid-ground.
No, I throttle in jiu-jitsu, like how hard I go.
That's not what I meant. I meant just like you are a very deliberate person.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, you've seen,
Yeah, it's a good thing. It's a good thing. Yeah, you were the most prepared.
Well, I was an Eagle Scout.
You did your homework. Were you an Eagle Scout?
I was an Eagle Scout.
Congratulations.
Yeah, it's part of the preparation. But like, if you have something you want to do, go. Like do it now. And you don't know where it's gonna benefit, and you don't know if it'll benefit or how it'll benefit. But if you don't do some of that groundwork now, man, you don't know what could build out of it. If I hadn't started jiu-jitsu randomly when I got out of the Army, I would never own a school now.
Yeah.
And it's something I want to do. I liked it, so I just did the crap out of it.
Mm-hmm.
And then one day I was like, you know what? This could be a cool thing to support my family and build community and have my kids have a business in the future. And it's doing that, and that's really cool. And I love our members. Like I'm truly close with some of our members. Like they are like family to me.
Yeah.
I take their kids to In-N-Out with me. Like I'm in business with some of the parents.
Yeah, dude. I felt like the guys were like, "You're not going to In-N-Out?" I'm like,
Thursday night In-N-Out, man.
No, man, I'm so sorry.
I have an In-N-Out gi from Hyperfly.
I didn't know. Is that actually an In-N-Out gi, or is it just coincidental coloring?
No, it's an In-N-Out gi.
No kidding?
Go to In-N-Out website. It's the California gi.
I didn't know
but
that,
the
dude.
In-N-Out logo's in the back. They got the palm
far
trees.
Off I am.
Yeah, they got the palm trees on the inside liner. Like one of my kids bought a logo.
Know. Yeah.
So we're gonna have
the one. He's like, what do you mean you're not going? This is what we do.
This
is what we do, by the way. And I'm like,
and you know what? You know how good that is for kids. Like teenagers have that structure. Like this is a healthy social event we do on Thursday nights after a long week of training.
100%.
We balled it out Thursday night. We had a rough night. Let's go have some In-N-Out together as a team.
Yeah,
those are
communal
good
aspects. Yeah, so valuable.
Those are good things to teach young men.
Yeah.
Right.
100%.
And I love that those teens come with me. I love that the parents sometimes come with me, and we all go in and out and we talk about like jiu-jitsu. We just BS, we relax.
Yeah.
And we worked for those calories, right?
Yeah.
Like we put in some work, and it's a good experience. And I hope that grows.
It's good, dude.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with it.
And I hope that grows. I hope more people start coming out with us. Argyle used to come with me. They've kind of dipped away because I'm not the one driving it hard, but I think it's a great experience, and it's good community.
Really cool. We've talked about that in so many different ways. Is that is sort of the well known, but sometimes it's like that's the elusive benefit to jiu-jitsu is the community aspect, And if you could bottle that up and put it in a pill, man, that would be the first prescription that I would give anybody. Like the moves are going to come in. You just stay on the mats. You're going to get those, But if you can associate yourself with a good group of people, and it even goes back to the very beginning of jiu-jitsu or the very beginning of the podcast when I was talking about that, like just confusing, like, why do I not feel good? Oh, because I'm around people that aren't out for my best interest. And jiu-jitsu, that's why I train, man. That's why I train where I train with, who I train with, and who I associate myself with is because just like you just described, man, those communal benefits, they are so valuable. And once I could put my finger on what they actually were, then I realized like, man, this is what it's all about.
People that like I was at a Chamber of Commerce event recently, and it was just a bunch of people that did not care about each other, but pretended the heck out of caring about each other.
That's so exhausting,
right?
Man,
and but it comes off so artificial.
Yeah, it's straight up.
Like all these people that were so happy for the ribbon cutting or whatever, like it was just so artificial.
Yeah,
and like it was just I couldn't wait to get out of there and get back to the gym. And then you go to the gym, and there are people here like truly trying to help you make your game better, letting you choke them out so that you can get like willing to incur painful suffering to help you get that throw or get that choke.
Yeah.
They will literally like they're putting their money where their mouth is. They'll let you hurt them so that you can learn a move, let you cause pain to them repeatedly over and over so that you can get better. These people care about you.
Yeah.
Right? No way around. They care about your success. They'll cheer you on at tournaments. They will help you train. These people want nothing from you other than you to be there and your body to be on the mat with them. Yeah. And that's like, come on, that's beautiful, right?
It's beautiful thing, man. It really is. Last question. What is next for you, man? I mean, you're brown belt, high level practitioner, martial arts school owner, what do we have to look forward to in the future of Zach Paul?
Yeah. So I did this one, not the original, again, it was not the plan, but if we get that school live and I can not be a government contractor and if I can make that shift from like, hey, jiu-jitsu is a side project and I'm a government contractor to forget government contracting. I'm just going to do the school full time.
Yeah.
And I can go in my soft retirement and that's how I view it. Like if I'm doing that school full time, I'm considering it like I'm quasi-retired.
Yeah.
Because I'm doing the thing I love, even though it makes me the same amount of money as my government contracting jobs.
Yeah. That tells you something about priorities, man, is when you consider work, retirement, but you're putting the same amount of effort into something, but it's, like
if not
there
more.
is no retirement, you know, like it just tells you kind of like where priorities should lie.
It's been a while since someone tried to kill me on our government contract. I'm not saying it didn't happen early on, but it's been a while since that's happened, right? Like I'm getting kids. These guys are trying to kill me every night at jiu-jitsu, right?
Yeah, especially in your school, man. You get some big guys.
I got some big boys, but they're tough and I like them. But like, I would argue it's more effort to teach and run and train jiu-jitsu than some of the other office jobs that arguably pay more money, right?
I don't disagree one single bit, man.
But I love it. And it's a bunch of people that like, I can help. They know I'm trying to help them and they're trying to help me and we're all trying to help each other and we all care. Yeah, that's the next goal. The next goal is to how can I make my hobby, and we're on that path. How can I make the hobby something that can support my lifestyle? And then how can I help other people like with that? Right?
I love it.
How can I make my gym donation only one day, right? How can we work the finances so we can make a donation only? Like, that's the next step. How can I make more Kool-Aid for everyone, right? Like join the cult,
Get the water hotter.
Yeah, like that's how can we make more of this? You help me make Kool-Aid. Come here.
I love it, man. Any closing thoughts before we wrap up?
No, man, I had a great time. If you need me back, I'm more than happy to.
Dude, I definitely will. We've got a lot of other stuff that's coming, so you'll be one that I want to get back on for sure for some of the shorter terms and more focused stuff. But look, man, it's been fun just getting to know you over the last couple of weeks. I mean, you got a great school, you got a great product, you had a great group of people in there. I'm super excited to have been a part of it. Hopefully,
you're going to be more of a part of it. Yeah, you're going to be even more part of it.
To see some of these guys, I mean, it's fun to see people that have just kind of come in, have an interest, saw a sign with a light that said open, and kind of watching these folks come up the chain, man. It's I can see how rewarding it is, and appreciate you putting that out there. Some of the big things that we talked about today, I mean, some of the stuff that I will definitely take away will be the difference between balance and synergies, and using the priorities and as sort of a measure for what you need to do, which you probably already know the answer to. Until next time, you've heard it here, and we are out.